I was taken aback when my sister-in-law and mother-in-law criticized me so harshly, completely unaware of the sacrifices I had made. They had no idea that I was taking over my mother-in-law's debts, and their lack of gratitude stung deeply. As I packed my bags, preparing to leave, they began to understand the full extent of what I had been hiding, and their attitudes shifted. My name is Emma, and I'm 32 years old, juggling a demanding career in the city. During my student days, I was always nestled in the library, lost in my studies. Once I started working, my life was consumed by a mountain of responsibilities, leaving no time for myself. A well-meaning friend noticed my neglect of personal life and suggested, "Emma, you should make time for love." She organized a group blind date for me, and that's where I met John. Working in a city center office, John was a fresh graduate and seemed genuinely interested in me. Though I was nervous about dating again, his kindness and gentle encouragement helped us gradually open up to each other. Our feelings deepened quickly, and within a year, we decided to marry. It felt like a dream come true, a remarkable shift from my work-centric life. My friend, astonished by how fast things had progressed, remarked, "Wow, you're actually getting married." I replied with excitement, "Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? I'm so glad you set up that blind date. I truly appreciate it and can't wait for the wedding." With excitement and anticipation, I was about to step into a new chapter of my life. Our first step was to introduce each other to our families. My parents greeted John with warmth and enthusiasm. "Emma, it's been a while since you mentioned a boyfriend, and I was starting to worry you might not get married. John, please take good care of her." Hearing these words made me realize for the first time how deeply my parents cared. Although they had always given me the freedom to make my own choices, I could now see their unspoken hope for me to find happiness in marriage. Their concern and support warmed my heart. When I visited John's home for the first time, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. His parents were incredibly kind and made me feel at ease right away. We all sat down for dinner, and while I was eager for the occasion, I was also a bit anxious, especially about meeting John's sister, Melissa. At 25, she was straightforward and candid, which caught me off guard. She asked, "Emma, aren't you getting married a bit late?" Her comment about how she would have decided sooner if she were me was a bit shocking. Despite this, John's support helped ease the tension, and we enjoyed a pleasant dinner together. Planning our wedding was a joyful experience, and the ceremony itself was held at a location we both loved, surrounded by friends and family. The day was perfect, and our honeymoon was filled with fun and adventure. When we returned home, we embarked on our new life together, finding joy in everyday moments. Whether we were going on dates or watching movies at home, the freshness of our newlywed life made each day delightful. It had been about 2 years since our wedding when our serene life took a sudden and dramatic turn. We received the heartbreaking news that my father-in-law had passed away. Although I was aware of his health issues, his death came as a shock, arriving much sooner than we had anticipated. Both my husband and I were deeply affected by the loss, and my mother-in-law's grief was particularly profound, which was palpable to us. However, the situation took an even more surprising turn when we discovered that my mother-in-law was deeply in debt. It turned out she had been deceived by someone unscrupulous and had lost a significant amount of money. This revelation left us stunned. Despite the gravity of the situation, my husband, ever the compassionate soul, expressed his desire to help. We decided to use our joint savings to alleviate her debt as much as possible, feeling that it was essential to support her through this difficult time. To our surprise, my mother-in-law's response was somewhat unexpected. She asked if she could turn to John for help in the future if needed. My husband was taken aback and hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She assured us that she would find a way to manage her finances, though my husband remained concerned that it might involve gambling or other risky behaviors. We kept a vigilant eye on her, hoping she wouldn't find herself in more trouble. Amidst these challenges, my husband suddenly suffered an injury that required hospitalization. This unexpected turn of events added another layer of difficulty to our lives as we spent our days shuttling back and forth between the hospital and home to care for him. I hadn't noticed any changes in my mother-in-law's daily routine until one day, after my husband was discharged from the hospital, I decided to visit his parents' home. It had been a while since our last visit, and I immediately felt that something was different in the atmosphere. "Mom, it's been a long time," my husband greeted her with a warm smile. My mother-in-law responded, "John, it's good to see you. How are you feeling? Can you run again?" She smiled back, and as they exchanged pleasantries, my husband began to look through her bank book. To his astonishment, he saw that the funds we had set aside to help with her previous debts were nearly depleted. "What happened to the money in this bank book, Mother?" my husband asked, clearly taken aback. His mother-in-law offered a slightly sheepish smile and said, "Well, I went out for tea with some friends and ended up buying a few things I shouldn't have. It's been quite a mess." She laughed ruefully, clearly aware of the situation but unable to offer a better explanation. At her revelation, my husband and I were left stunned. It felt as though we had carefully saved money for my mother-in-law's future, only for her to spend it freely without a second thought. My husband couldn't hide his frustration. "Mom, you shouldn't spend money like this. Do you realize how much effort we put into saving for your future?" he said, clearly disheartened. Seeing her genuine remorse, we became even more concerned about her well-being. We suggested that she move in with us so we could better support her. Her face lit up with relief and happiness at the offer, and she agreed to leave her home and move into our apartment. Our new life together began, and my mother-in-law quickly adapted to her new surroundings. We enjoyed our time together, sharing meals and laughter around the table. She eagerly took on housework, which made daily life surprisingly smooth for us. Her cheerful attitude brought a new warmth and brightness to our home, making our days more joyful and fulfilling. I asked, "Mom, what would you like for lunch today?" She replied, I think I'd like yuan." "That sounds good," I said, noting her choice. Since I was working from home, I was in a position to keep an eye on how my mother-in-law managed her finances. With my husband and me covering her living expenses and my husband overseeing her account, we expected her spending to be under control. Despite this, we remained vigilant, concerned she might still mismanage the funds. Days turned into weeks, and before we knew it, 6 months had passed. One afternoon, while we were relaxing in the living room, the intercom buzzed. Curious about who it might be, I answered and was surprised to find my sister-in-law Melissa standing at the door. "Melissa, it's been a while. Is Mom around?" I asked, slightly taken aback by her direct question before even exchanging greetings. I invited her in and showed her to the living room. "Mom, it's good to see you," Melissa said as she entered. "Oh, Melissa, what a surprise. What brings you here?" my mother-in-law responded warmly. "I just wanted to catch up and see you," Melissa said. "I'm glad you're here. How are things?" "I'm doing well, thank you. John is here with me. Would you like to join us for lunch?" Melissa asked. "Of course, I'd love to," my mother-in-law replied with enthusiasm. Melissa must have taken my mother-in-law out to a restaurant or something similar, so we decided to wait at home. When they returned in the evening, we immediately noticed a change in their demeanor. Melissa confronted me with an unexpected accusation. "Emma, you're tormenting my mother, aren't you?" she said, leaving me stunned and confused. My mother-in-law also looked at me with a stern expression. My husband quickly defended me. "What are you talking about? There's no way Emma would do something like that." Despite his reassurance, Melissa was unyielding. "John, you're being deceived too. Mom says she can't go out and that Emma is making things difficult for her at home." We were both taken aback. It was true that we had occasionally refused my mother-in-law's request to go shopping, concerned that she might overspend. However, the claim that I was taking her money was completely unexpected. I was unsure if my mother-in-law genuinely felt this way or if Melissa had exaggerated the situation. It appeared that Melissa and my mother-in-law were now united in their accusations against me. "What exactly do you want from me?" I felt as if I were under a spell, bewildered by their intentions. What could they possibly want to communicate? Just then, my sister-in-law made an unexpected demand. "I want you to leave our house." Her words hit me hard. "I don't believe my mother can be truly happy living with you," she continued, her face showing disappointment. My mother-in-law, looking conflicted, seemed on the verge of speaking but remained silent, casting a pained glance in my direction. "If you were gone," Melissa added, "it would allow me and John to relax and enjoy our time together." Her words left me stunned, and I struggled to find a response. They had no idea that I had used my personal savings to pay off her debts. In hindsight, I should have clarified that this money was not part of our joint marital funds but my own. Looking at my husband, I saw the anger in his eyes. His hands were clenched, and he was visibly shaking. Melissa, unfazed, continued, "My mother and I will be living here from now on, so I need you to leave." Taking a deep breath, I replied, I understand, but I won't be involved in what happens next. After that confrontation, my husband and I decided to move out. On the day of our departure, they were taken aback by one unexpected revelation. Looks like you've arranged to leave so soon, Melissa remarked, surprised by our swift departure. Well, yes, my husband said with a hint of amusement. I have something to tell you, Melissa. What is it? She asked, intrigued. With a chuckle, my husband replied, since I'm getting older, I've been thinking it's time to transfer the house into your name. Melissa's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? The house will be mine? My husband calmly handed her the paperwork for the name transfer. All you need to do is sign here. Overjoyed, Melissa exclaimed, I can't believe it's going to be my own place, and quickly signed the documents. My husband and I exchanged knowing glances and smiles, pleased with how our plan had unfolded. Well, it's time for us to start preparing to move, my husband said. What? John, you're really leaving? Yes, I've decided to leave as well. Oh, even John is leaving. Do you really have to go with Emma? If I'm not with Emma, I wouldn't be comfortable either. It's normal for married couples to stay together. I expected you'd say that, but what about the house expenses and other costs? That's something you'll need to handle on your own, John replied. Wait a minute, I quit my job because I expected you'd support me. John and I were taken aback by my sister-in-law's sudden declaration. If you continue like this, you're going to create a lot of trouble for me and our mother, John warned. That's fine. If you can find a way to manage on your own, you have her mother's pension to help, and with a bit of saving, you should be able to get by, I said. Yes, and with my pension added in, it should work out. Since you're moving out, we'll need to be creative with our budgeting, my husband added. My sister-in-law looked slightly reassured by my mother-in-law's supportive words. It's my new home now. If I save a bit, I should be able to make it work. John and I exchanged knowing smiles, amused by her optimism, unaware that the property was a rental. Around that time, the movers arrived. We greeted them and started the process of clearing out our belongings. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law watched with dismay. What's going on? Are you moving out already? Are you taking everything with you? Of course, we bought all this stuff. Should I really have to replace everything? I replied. That's right. I wish you'd have taken that into account earlier, my sister-in-law remarked, clearly frustrated. Well, we'd better get going, my husband said with a smile as we prepared to leave the house. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law stood frozen in astonishment. After a while, my sister-in-law called my husband's cell phone. Hey John, what's this about a rent bill all of a sudden? I must have misunderstood something. Am I not actually the owner of this house? My husband asked. Who told you that? Actually, I'm renting this house. The document you signed was a rental agreement, so it's only natural that you be billed for the rent, she explained. Seriously, I had no idea, my husband replied, clearly surprised. Yes, it's your residence now, so you're responsible for the rent, she confirmed. But my salary is not as high as yours, my husband protested. You might find this amusing, but Emma actually earns more than I do, my husband said. Really? It's true. She's been working hard at a well-paying remote job, which is why we've been able to live so comfortably in that apartment, he added. My sister-in-law was taken aback and fell silent. Then I heard my mother-in-law's anxious voice. We're so sorry, she said, her tone filled with regret. I truly apologize. Could you please reconsider and come back? My husband replied with gentle firmness. Thank you, mother, but it's difficult for me to come back given how you've treated Emma. She is my priority. Please handle the rest on your own. After that conversation, I heard various updates. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law had struggled with rent payments and were forced to find a new apartment. They ended up in a small place barely large enough for the two of them. Reports indicated that they were facing financial difficulties and frequent arguments, with additional stress coming from nosy neighbors. Meanwhile, John and I have settled into our new home, enjoying a fresh start. Our days are filled with joy and contentment.
The first thing I noticed when I walked into my bedroom was the smell, a sickly sweet perfume that didn't belong to me. My sister Paisley's signature scent. I froze in the doorway, my carry-on bag slipping from my shoulder and hitting the hardwood floor with a thud. My name is Trinity, and I had just returned from a 3-month consulting project in Seattle, eager to surprise my family and fiancé, but something was wrong, very wrong. Hello, I called out, my voice echoing through our family's Victorian home. No answer. My room looked different. The photos on my dresser had been rearranged, and unfamiliar clothes peeked out from my closet. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. These weren't my clothes, they were Paisley's. "What the hell?" I muttered, yanking open drawers. My things were gone, replaced with my sister's belongings. The room I'd grown up in, my sanctuary, had been colonized. I grabbed my phone to call Colton, my fiancé, but stopped when I noticed a piece of paper sticking out from under the mattress. Pulling it free, I recognized Colton's messy handwriting. "My dearest P, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. 3 months without Trinity here has been heaven." The letter slipped from my trembling fingers. More papers scattered across the floor, dozens of love letters between my sister and my fiancé. "Trinity, is that you?" My mother's voice floated up the stairs. I quickly gathered the letters, stuffing them into my bag. "Yeah, Mom, just got back," I called down, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Oh, sweetie, we weren't expecting you until next week." She appeared in the doorway, perfect makeup and pressed clothes, as always. "I hope you don't mind. We let Paisley use your room while hers is being renovated." I forced a smile. "Of course not. Where's Colton?" I tried calling him on the way. "He and Paisley went to pick up lunch. They should be back any minute." She beamed. "Those two have gotten so close while you were away. It's wonderful how well they get along." My stomach churned. "Yeah, wonderful." Mom's phone buzzed. "Oh, that's your father. Come down when you're settled." She hurried away, leaving me alone with my crumbling world. I sat on my bed that probably wasn't just mine anymore, and pulled out one of the letters, dated just last week. "K, Mom and Dad still don't suspect anything. Trinity's always been blind when it comes to you. Remember, delete these messages after reading. Love always, P." The front door opened downstairs. Laughter drifted up. Paisley's musical giggle and Colton's deep chuckle. The sound made my skin crawl. "Babe," Colton called out, "your mom said you're home." I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked to my mirror. The woman staring back at me looked calm, collected. Inside, I was screaming. "Coming," I called down, my voice honey-sweet. I tucked the letters deeper into my bag and headed downstairs. Colton stood in the foyer, still devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit. Paisley lounged against the wall beside him, wearing one of my old sweaters like it belonged to her. "There's my girl." Colton moved to embrace me. I let him, noting how he smelled like Paisley's perfume. "Surprise," I chirped, hugging him back. Over his shoulder, I watched Paisley's face. For just a moment, her perfect mask slipped, showing something like fear. "We brought lunch," Paisley said, holding up takeout bags. "Your favorite, Thai food." Wrong. Thai food was her favorite. Mine was Italian. But of course, she wouldn't know that. She'd been too busy stealing my life to learn such details. "How thoughtful," I said, following them to the kitchen. "I have so much to tell you all about Seattle." "Can't wait to hear everything," Colton said, his hand lingering on my waist. The engagement ring he'd given me felt like it was burning my finger. As we sat down to eat, I watched them. My perfect sister, my faithful fiancé, my doting parents. They had no idea what I'd discovered, no idea what was coming. I smiled and nodded as they chatted, playing my part perfectly. But inside, I was already planning. They wanted to play happy families? Fine. I'd play along, right until the moment I burned it all down. "More spring rolls, Trinity," Paisley offered, all innocence and light. "Thanks, sis," I said, taking one. "You know, I think this homecoming is going to be really special." And it would be, just not in the way they expected. "You're not going to believe what I found," Andrea whispered, sliding into the booth across from me at our usual coffee shop. Her laptop was already open, fingers flying across the keyboard. I'd called my coworker and closest friend the moment I could slip away from the house. If anyone could help me uncover the full extent of Paisley and Colton's betrayal, it was Andrea. She had a gift for digital detective work. "Look at this," She turned the screen toward me. I managed to recover deleted emails from Colton's work account. The timestamps go back almost a year. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach as I scrolled through the messages. Lunch dates, secret meetings, hotel reservations. A whole year? My voice cracked. They've been doing this since before I even left for Seattle? Andrea reached across the table and squeezed my hand. There's more. Remember that charity gala last Christmas? The one you couldn't attend because of food poisoning? I nodded, already seeing where this was going. Check the email from December 23rd. The message loaded, and I felt the blood drain from my face. P. Slip the ipecac into her drink. She won't make it to the gala. Meet me there. K. They poisoned me. The words came out in a whisper. Trinity, a familiar voice called out. I slammed the laptop shut as Paisley approached our table, all sunshine and designer clothes. I thought I saw you through the window. Who's your friend? Andrea, my coworker, I said, forcing a smile. We're just catching up on work stuff. What brings you here? Just picking up Colton's favorite latte. Paisley's eyes lingered on the closed laptop. He's been so stressed lately, planning the wedding and all. How thoughtful of you to help with our wedding preparations, I said, watching her face carefully. A flicker of something, guilt, fear, crossed her features before her smile returned. That's what sisters are for. Speaking of which, Mom wants us to go dress shopping this weekend. Perfect, I said. I can't wait. After Paisley left, Andrea reopened her laptop. There's something else you need to see. I found emails between Paisley and your mom from last month. The messages revealed a series of transfers from my mother's personal account to Paisley's. Large sums of money that had originally been set aside for my wedding. Mom's been funding their affair, I said, feeling numb. Trinity, look at me. Andrea leaned forward. What are you going to do? I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. First, I'm going dress shopping this weekend. Then, I'm going to destroy everything they hold dear. I've got more digging to do, Andrea said. But whatever you're planning, I'm with you. Later that evening, I sat through another family dinner, watching the performance unfold. Mom gushing over Paisley's new job. Dad nodding proudly. Colton's hand on my knee under the table, while he exchanged glances with my sister. Remember when Trinity tried to start her own business? Paisley laughed, cutting into her steak. Thank goodness she stuck with consulting instead. That business would have succeeded if someone hadn't sabotaged my investor meeting, I said quietly, meeting her eyes. Funny how my presentation files disappeared right before the big pitch. The table fell silent. Paisley's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Ancient history. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Paisley, tell everyone about your promotion. My phone buzzed. A text from Andrea. Found security footage from the hotel they use. Last meeting was 3 days ago. Sending now. I excused myself to the bathroom, watching the video with shaking hands. There they were, my sister and my fiancé, caught in an intimate embrace in the hotel lobby. When I returned to the table, Colton pulled me close and kissed my cheek. Everything okay, babe? You look pale. Never better, I smiled, noting the faint trace of Paisley's lipstick on his collar. Just thinking about our wedding. It's going to be unforgettable. Speaking of the wedding, Mom beamed. I've been working on the seating arrangements with Paisley. She has such an eye for these things. I'm sure she does, I said, raising my wine glass. To family secrets. Family success. Paisley's glass trembled slightly as she raised it. Our eyes met over the rim, and I saw it, the first crack in her perfect facade. She knew I knew something. But she had no idea how much. My phone buzzed again. Andrea had found more evidence, more betrayals to uncover. The web of lies was unraveling thread by thread. More wine, anyone? I offered, playing the perfect hostess while plotting their downfall. Sometimes revenge is best served with a smile. You look stunning, sweetheart. Mom wiped away tears as I twirled in the wedding dress. The boutique's three-way mirror reflected my image back at me. A perfect bride in white lace. A beautiful lie. Paisley circled me like a shark, adjusting the train. The neckline's all wrong. Maybe something more conservative. I think it's perfect, I said, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Don't you want your big sister to look her best walking down the aisle, Paisley? She flinched slightly, but recovered quickly. Of course, I just want everything to be perfect for you and Colton. My phone buzzed on the nearby chair. Another message from Andrea. Found the joint bank account. They've been planning to buy a house together using your wedding money. Trinity? Mom's voice snapped me back to reality. Should we put down the deposit for this one? Actually, I smiled. I think I need to try on a few more. Paisley's right. Everything needs to be perfect. While Mom chatted with the consultant, I cornered Paisley by the accessories display. That's a gorgeous necklace you're wearing. New. Her hand flew to her throat, touching the diamond pendant. Oh, this old thing? Just a birthday gift. Funny. I picked up a nearby tiara, examining it casually. It looks exactly like the one Colton said he was buying for our first anniversary. Even has the same inscription on the back. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? I leaned closer, keeping my voice low and sweet. The inscription reads, "Forever yours, Kay." Would you like me to read what's on yours? Before she could respond, Mom called us over to look at veils. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of tulle and tension, Paisley growing increasingly nervous while I maintained my mask of bridal bliss. That evening, Colton took me to dinner at our favorite restaurant. Or rather, what he thought was our favorite. It was actually Paisley's preferred spot. To us, he raised his glass, flashing that charming smile that once made my heart race. Now it just made my skin crawl. To us, I echoed. Oh, that reminds me. I stopped by the bank today to discuss our joint account. His fork paused, halfway to his mouth. What? The wedding fund, I clarified, watching him squirm. The teller mentioned some unusual transfers. Isn't that strange? Must be a mistake, he said quickly. I'll look into it tomorrow. Please do. I smiled. By the way, I ran into Julian today. You remember my cousin? He's a real estate agent now. Mentioned something about a house you were interested in. Colton's knuckles went white around his wine glass. Just browsing options for our future. How thoughtful, I said, pulling out my phone. Actually, Julian sent me the listing. Beautiful place, 3 bedrooms, garden. Funny though, the application has your name and Paisley's on it. Must be another mistake, right? The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Finally, Colton cleared his throat. Trinity, I can explain. No need. I cut him off, standing up. I'm feeling a bit tired. Wedding planning, you know? Such a draining process. Let me drive you home, he offered, desperation creeping into his voice. I'll call a cab, I said, dropping my napkin on the table. Oh, and Colton, that lipstick on your collar, wrong shade for me, but it matches Paisley's perfectly. I walked out, leaving him stammering at the table. Outside, I texted Andrea. Time for phase 2, send everything to Julian. When I got home, I found Mom in her study, poring over wedding magazines. Mom, can we talk about the wedding budget? Of course, sweetie. I've been meaning to tell you. Some of the funds are temporarily unavailable. Transferred to Paisley's account, you mean? I asked innocently. She froze, paper slipping from her fingers. How did you? No, I finished for her. I know everything, Mom. Every transfer, every lie, every time you chose her over me. The only question is, why? Trinity, please, she started, but I was already walking away. Don't worry, I called over my shoulder. All will be revealed at the engagement party next week. I'm planning quite a show. In my room, my real room, which I'd reclaimed by simply moving Paisley's things to the garage. I pulled out the growing file of evidence, bank statements, emails, photos, hotel receipts, each piece a bullet in the gun I was about to fire. My phone lit up with a text from Paisley. We need to talk. I replied with a single word. Soon. The mask was becoming heavy, but I'd wear it just a little longer. The engagement party was only days away, and I had one final act to prepare. They wanted a show. I'd give them a performance they'd never forget. You need to stop this, Trinity. Julian cornered me in the kitchen during Sunday brunch. Whatever you're planning, it's going to destroy this family. I continued arranging cookies on a plate, not meeting his eyes. Funny how nobody worried about destroying the family while they were betraying me. Look, he lowered his voice as footsteps approached. I found something else while looking into that house purchase. Something about your birth certificate. There you are. Paisley burst into the kitchen, her smile too bright. Mom's asking for more coffee. Julian gave me a meaningful look before stepping out. I filed away his words for later investigation. We need to talk, Paisley said once we were alone. About the engagement party. What about it? I asked, adding more cookies to the plate. Worried about something. Stop playing games, she hissed. I know you know about Colton and me. I turned to face her, leaning against the counter. Do you remember my 8th grade graduation? When I was supposed to give the valedictorian speech, she blinked at the sudden change of subject. What? Someone replaced my speech with blank pages right before I went on stage. I looked like an idiot in front of everyone. I picked up a cookie, examining it. That was you, wasn't it? We were kids, she said dismissively. What does that have to do with, and my college acceptance letter to Yale? The one that mysteriously never arrived, making me miss the enrollment deadline. Color drained from her face. Trinity, my whole life you've been sabotaging me, but stealing my fiancé? That's a new low, even for you. It's not like that. Paisley grabbed my arm. We fell in love. We didn't mean to hurt you. I jerked away from her. Save the performance for someone who still believes your lies. What are you going to do? Fear crept into her voice. Nothing, I smiled. I'm going to serve these cookies, plan my engagement party, and be the perfect bride-to-be, just like you've always been the perfect sister. Back in the living room, Colton was showing Dad something on his phone. Look at this investment opportunity. Could double your money in 6 months. I froze. Andrea's latest text flashed through my mind. Found evidence of investment fraud. Colton's been scamming your dad. Sounds interesting, I interrupted, setting down the cookies. Dad, didn't you mention wanting to invest in my old business plan, the one that fell through? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Well, yes, but Paisley convinced you it was too risky, I finished. Yet here's Colton, with an opportunity that sounds too good to be true. It's completely legitimate, Colton said quickly. I can show you the paperwork. Like the paperwork for the house you're buying, I asked innocently. The one with the fraudulent loan application. The room went silent. Mom's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. What house? Dad asked. Oh, didn't Colton tell you about the property he and Paisley are planning to buy? With money from my wedding fund. That's enough. Mom stood up sharply. Trinity, stop creating drama. Drama, I laughed. You want to talk about drama? Let's talk about the money you've been funneling to Paisley from Dad's retirement account. Dad's head snapped toward Mom. What? She's lying, Mom said quickly. Trinity's always been jealous of her sister. Am I? I pulled out my phone. Should I show everyone the bank statements? Don't, Paisley whispered. Why not? Isn't this what perfect families do? Share everything? Julian stepped between us. Trinity, remember what I said about the birth certificate? Not now, I cut him off. But Colton caught it. What birth certificate? Nothing, Julian said quickly. Forget I mentioned it. But I saw something flash across Mom's face. Real fear this time, not just anxiety about exposed secrets. Mom, I asked slowly, is there something else you want to tell me? This conversation is over, she announced, standing up. Trinity, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but it stops now. You're right, I said, gathering my things. It stops at the engagement party. Everything stops then. As I walked out, I heard Paisley burst into tears. Her trademark move when things didn't go her way. But this time, it wouldn't work. My phone buzzed. Andrea, again. Found the birth certificate Julian mentioned. You need to see this now. I glanced back at the house, where my family was probably already spinning stories to explain away my behavior. They had no idea that their perfectly crafted lies were about to come crashing down. And apparently, the biggest lie of all was still waiting to be uncovered. I'm not actually their daughter. My hands shook as I stared at the documents spread across Andrea's kitchen table. How is this possible? According to these records, Andrea pointed to a highlighted section. You were adopted. But there's more. Look at the date on your adoption papers compared to Paisley's birth certificate. The dates were just 3 months apart. They adopted me right before Paisley was born. Your mom was pregnant with Paisley when they adopted you, Andrea confirmed. But here's the weird part. They never registered your adoption properly. Legally speaking, you're in limbo. My world tilted sideways. That's why Mom always favored Paisley. She's their real daughter. Trinity, Julian's voice, came from Andrea's doorway. I hadn't even heard him come in. I see you found out. You knew? I spun to face him. All this time, he sat down heavily. I overheard my parents talking about it years ago, but there's more to the story. Your biological mother. My phone rang, cutting him off. Colton's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Andrea warned. But I did anyway. Trinity. Colton's voice was urgent. We need to talk about everything. Meet me at our spot? You mean you're in Paisley's spot? I asked coldly. The hotel downtown. Silence. Then, please. There's something you need to know before the engagement party tomorrow. I hung up and turned to Julian. Tell me about my biological mother. He shook his head. Not my story to tell. But maybe it's time you asked your parents directly. Oh, I will. I stood up, gathering the documents. At the engagement party, in front of everyone. Trinity, Julian caught my arm. Be careful. Some secrets are buried for a reason. That evening, I sat in my car, outside my parents' house, watching through the windows as they hosted their weekly bridge club. Mom was laughing, Dad was pouring wine, and Paisley was charming the guests as usual. My phone buzzed with a text from Colton. Please meet me, I'm begging you. Another text came through, this one from Paisley. Whatever you're planning tomorrow, don't. You have no idea what you're about to unleash. I started typing a response when a knock on my car window made me jump. Dad stood there, looking concerned. Can we talk? He asked after I rolled down the window. I nodded, and he slipped into the passenger seat. Your mother doesn't know I'm out here, he said quietly, but I saw the adoption papers in your room. Were you going through my things? I was looking for evidence of what you've been planning. He sighed. Trinity, there are things about your adoption, complications, that could hurt a lot of people if they come out. Like the fact that it wasn't legal? I asked sharply. He flinched. Who told you that? Does it matter? What I want to know is why. Why adopt me just to treat me like a second-class citizen in my own family? It wasn't supposed to be like that, he whispered. We loved you, love you. But your mother, when Paisley came along, save it, I cut him off. Save it for tomorrow, when everyone can hear the truth. Please, his voice cracked. Don't do this to your mother. My mother, I laughed bitterly. Which one? The one who gave me up, or the one who never wanted me? Dad reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Just answer one thing. Does Paisley know? No, he said firmly. She has no idea. My phone lit up again. Andrea. Found your biological mother's current address. You're not going to believe this. Go back inside, Dad, I said, starting my car. I'll see you all tomorrow at the party. Trinity. Don't worry, I smiled grimly. I've arranged everything perfectly. Catering, decorations, music, and just enough truth to blow this family apart. As I drove away, I watched him in my rearview mirror, standing alone in the darkness. My phone kept buzzing. Colton, Paisley, Mom, all trying to prevent tomorrow's inevitable explosion. But they were too late. The invitations were sent, the evidence was prepared, and in less than 24 hours, every carefully constructed lie would come crashing down. I pulled into my apartment complex and noticed a manila envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. Inside was a single photograph, me as a baby, being handed to my parents by a woman whose face was scratched out. On the back, in unfamiliar handwriting, "Stop digging, some truths are better left buried." But I was done with buried truths. Tomorrow, everything would come to light, no matter the cost. The engagement party wasn't just going to be the end of my relationship with Colton. It was going to be the end of everything. The country club ballroom sparkled with champagne glasses and fake smiles. I stood at the entrance, watching my carefully arranged dominoes prepare to fall. Andrea stationed herself near the AV equipment. Julian hovered by the bar, and my family scattered around the room, all trying to act normal. "You look beautiful." Colton appeared beside me, reaching for my hand. I let him take it, noting how he was sweating. "Nervous about something?" I asked sweetly. Before he could answer, Mom clinked her glass for attention. "Welcome, everyone. We're here to celebrate the engagement of my beautiful daughter, Trinity, to Colton." The crowd applauded. Paisley stood in the corner, clutching her champagne like a lifeline. "Actually," I stepped forward, "I'd like to say a few words." Mom's smile faltered. "Perhaps later, dear. The caterers." "No, now is perfect." I moved to the center of the room. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate love, family, and truth." Andrea dimmed the lights slightly, right on cue. The projector screen lowered behind me. "First, let's talk about love." I clicked the remote. Photos of Colton and Paisley appeared on the screen. Their secret meetings, hotel rendezvous, intimate moments they thought no one would see. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mom dropped her glass. "Next, family," I continued, switching to bank statements and transfer records. "Mom, want to explain why you've been emptying Dad's retirement account into Paisley's name? Or why my wedding fund was used to purchase a house for my sister and fiancé? Trinity, stop this immediately." Mom's voice shook. "Oh, but we haven't gotten to the best part yet, truth." I pulled out the adoption papers. "Let's discuss why you never legally registered my adoption. Was it because you were too busy preparing for your real daughter's arrival?" The room went deadly silent. Paisley's face had gone white. "What is she talking about?" she whispered. "Don't." Dad stepped forward, but I was already pulling out the photograph from my windshield. "This was left at my car last night. Mom, care to explain why you scratched out the face of my biological mother? Or should we ask your sister Rachel to explain?" Mom staggered backward. "How did you find out that my real mother is my aunt?" I held up my phone. "DNA doesn't lie, Mom. Rachel's daughter, that's me, isn't it? Your own sister's child, adopted in secret to hide her teenage pregnancy. No wonder you resented me." "I never resented you," Mom protested weakly. "Really?" I laughed. "Then why did you let Paisley systematically destroy every opportunity I ever had? Why did you help her steal my fiancé?" "That's not what happened." Paisley finally spoke up. "Colton and I fell in love. We never meant to get caught." I interrupted. "Is that why you applied for a marriage license last week?" Colton's head snapped toward Paisley. "You did what?" "Oh, she didn't tell you?" I smiled. "Guess she was playing both of us." "Enough." Dad's voice boomed across the room. "Trinity, you've made your point." "Have I?" I turned to the gathered guests. "Everyone here thinks we're the perfect family. Mom the socialite, Dad the businessman, Paisley the golden child, and me, the adopted mistake they never wanted." "That's not true," Dad said softly. "Then explain this." I projected one final document. A trust fund, set up the day Paisley was born. Every penny that should have been split between us, given solely to her. Every opportunity, every advantage, every piece of love, all reserved for your real daughter. Paisley started crying, her perfect mascara running. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you were adopted." "Save your tears," I snapped. "They won't work anymore." "Trinity," Julian stepped forward. "Your biological mother, Rachel, she's here." The crowd parted, revealing a woman who looked startlingly like me. standing near the back of the room. "I got your invitation," she said quietly. "I thought it was time." Mom let out a choked sob. "Rachel, please. No more secrets, Sarah." Rachel cut her off. "Trinity deserves the truth." I stared at the woman who gave me away, at the mother who never wanted me, at the sister who betrayed me, and at the man who played us all. The truth? I picked up my champagne glass. "Here's the truth. This engagement is over. This perfect family facade is over. Everything is over." I dropped my glass, letting it shatter on the floor, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, chaos erupted. Accusations, crying, demands for explanations. But I didn't look back. I'd lit the match and watched it all burn. Now it was time to walk away from the ashes. "Wait," Rachel's voice followed me into the parking lot. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." I turned to face my biological mother, really looking at her for the first time. Same green eyes, same dark hair, same stubborn chin. It was like looking into a mirror of my future. "Why now?" I asked. "Why not any time in the last 29 years?" "Because your mother, Sarah, made me promise to stay away." Rachel stepped closer. "She threatened to tell everyone about the pregnancy if I ever contacted you. And that was enough to keep you away." "I was 16, Trinity, scared, alone. And your mother, she convinced me it was best for everyone." The country club doors burst open. Paisley ran out, mascara streaking down her face. "Trinity, please, I didn't know about any of this." "Which part?" I asked coldly. "The part where you're not my sister, or the part where you were planning to marry my fiancé?" "I love him," she whispered. "I know it's wrong, but I love him." "And the sabotage, the stolen opportunities, was that love too?" Before she could answer, Colton emerged from the building. "Trinity, baby, let me explain." "Explain what?" I rounded on him. "The fraud? The affair? Or the fact that you were planning to steal my inheritance once we were married?" His face went pale. "How did you find the paperwork?" I pulled out my phone, showing him the screenshots. "You should really use stronger passwords." Mom and Dad appeared next, followed by what seemed like half the party guests. "Trinity," Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. "Everything I did was to protect this family." "Protect?" Rachel scoffed. "You stole my daughter to hide your own shame, then punished her for existing." "I gave her everything," Mom shouted. "No," Dad's quiet voice cut through the chaos. "You gave everything to Paisley. We both did, and we were wrong." Paisley's sobs grew louder. "Daddy, please." "The trust fund," he continued. "The opportunities, the constant favoritism. We created this mess, all of it. And now it's blown up in your faces," I said. "Just like I promised it would." "What do you want?" Mom asked desperately. "Money? The house? What will it take to fix this?" I laughed bitterly. "Fix this? You can't fix 29 years of lies with a checkbook, Mom. Or should I even call you that? I raised you," she whispered. "No, you tolerated me. There's a difference." Colton stepped forward. "Trinity, whatever you think you know about me and Paisley, save it." I cut him off. "Andrea found your offshore accounts. The FBI will be very interested in those, along with the investment scams you've been running." His face went from pale to gray. "You wouldn't—" "I already did. Check your phone." He pulled out his phone, hands shaking. One look at the screen, and he bolted for his car. "Colton, wait," Paisley called after him. But he was already gone. "He was using you too, Paisley," I said quietly. "Those investment documents. He was planning to take everything. From you, from Dad, from everyone." Rachel touched my arm gently. "Come with me. We have so much to talk about." "Trinity, please," Mom begged. "We can work this out as a family." "Family?" I gestured to the chaos around us. "This isn't family. This is a web of lies that's finally fallen apart." "Then let's rebuild," Dad suggested. "Start over, with the truth this time." I looked at them all. Mom's desperate face, Dad's regretful one, Paisley's tears, Rachel's hope. "The truth is," I said slowly, I don't want any of it anymore. Not the lies, not the competition, not the fake perfection. I'm done. What are you saying? Paisley whispered. I'm saying goodbye. I turned to Rachel. I'd like to know you, but not now, not like this. She nodded, understanding. I'll be here when you're ready. I walked to my car, aware of their eyes following me. Andrea appeared at my side, slipping me a thumb drive. Everything's backed up, she whispered. And the FBI really is interested in Colton's accounts. Thank you. I squeezed her hand. For everything. As I drove away, I watched in my rearview mirror as my carefully constructed explosion settled into rubble. Mom collapsed into Dad's arms. Paisley sat on the curb, with her head in her hands, and Rachel stood alone, watching me leave just like she had 29 years ago. But this time, it was my choice. My terms. My freedom. Sometimes, the only way to fix a broken family is to walk away from the pieces. The morning newspaper headline read, "Local investment banker arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme." I sipped my coffee, watching the sunrise from my new apartment's balcony when my phone buzzed. Did you see the news? Andrea texted. Colton's going away for a long time. Another text came through, from Paisley. Can we talk, please? I hesitated, then replied, coffee shop on 5th, 30 minutes. When I arrived, Paisley sat alone at a corner table, looking nothing like her usual polished self. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, just raw honesty in her eyes. I sold the house, she said as I sat down. The one Colton and I, well, you know. Smart move. The FBI interviewed me yesterday. She twisted her napkin. I had no idea about the fraud. He was stealing from me too. I know, I said quietly. That's why I made sure they knew you weren't involved. Her head snapped up. You did that for me? After everything. Despite what you think, I never wanted to destroy you, Paisley. I just wanted the truth. Mom's in therapy, she offered. Dad moved out temporarily. And Rachel, she asks about you. How are you handling that, finding out we're actually cousins? Honestly, she gave a weak laugh. It explains a lot. Why Mom always pushed me so hard to be perfect. Why she couldn't stand seeing you succeed. The barista brought our drinks. She'd ordered my actual favorite, not hers. You remembered, I noted. I'm trying to remember a lot of things, like how it felt before I started competing with you, before I let jealousy turn me into someone I hate. My phone buzzed. Dad. The divorce papers came today. Can we meet? Dad, Paisley asked. I nodded. They're getting divorced, she continued. Mom's secrets finally broke them. And us? What broke us? I did, she whispered. I broke us. And I'm so sorry, Trinity. Not just for Colton, but for everything. Every opportunity I stole. Every moment I ruined. The valedictorian speech? I was jealous. You were always smarter, always stronger. Mom's pressure to be perfect. I couldn't handle it. The door chimed, and Rachel walked in. She stopped short, seeing us together. I can come back. She started to turn. Stay, I said. Please. She joined us, creating a triangle of complicated relationships and shared pain. I signed the papers, Rachel said, legally acknowledging I'm your birth mother, if you want them. Does this mean you're moving back? Paisley asked. I bought a house nearby, Rachel nodded. If that's okay with everyone. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time. I understand if you never forgive me. But please know I'm trying to change. I showed them the text. She is trying, Paisley said softly. The therapist says she's finally dealing with her own childhood trauma. And you? I asked Rachel. Are you dealing with yours? Every day, she reached for my hand. Starting with making amends to you. The morning light streamed through the window, illuminating our three faces. So similar, yet each marked by different choices. I can't promise forgiveness, I said slowly. But maybe we can try something new, something honest this time. Like what? Paisley asked. Like being real family, no competition, no lies, no perfect facades. I'd like that. Rachel squeezed my hand. Me too. Paisley wiped away a tear. More than anything. My phone buzzed one final time. Andrea. FBI needs to meet again. Colton's naming names. You okay? I looked at these women. My cousin, who used to be my sister. My aunt, who used to be my mother. And my mother, who used to be a stranger. Each of us broken by the same lies. Each of us choosing truth over perfection. Yes, I texted back. I'm okay. Because sometimes family isn't about who raised you or who shares your blood. Sometimes it's about who stands with you in the rubble, ready to build something new. So, I said, raising my coffee cup, where do we start? With the truth, Rachel suggested. With forgiveness, Paisley added. No, I shook my head. We start with acceptance of who we are, what we've done, and what we can become. The morning light grew stronger, washing away the shadows of our past. We weren't perfect, we weren't even whole yet, but we were real. And maybe that was the best revenge of all.
The crumpled paper trembled in my hands as I read the words that would shatter my world. My 8-year-old daughter's messy handwriting stretched across the pink paper, addressed not to me, but to Santa Claus. Dear Santa, I don't want any toys this year. Could you please make Daddy come home more? Mommy tries to smile, but I know she's sad when he's not here. Maybe you could give him a job closer to home so he doesn't have to work so late. Love, Sophia. I'm Alea, and until that moment, I thought I was living the suburban dream. Funny how a child's innocent wish can rip away years of carefully constructed denial. Mommy, did you find my letter? Sophia called from the kitchen, where she was supposed to be finishing her homework. I wanted to mail it early, so Santa has time to think about it. I quickly wiped my eyes. Yes, sweetie, I found it. My voice somehow stayed steady. How about we have some hot chocolate while you finish that math? With marshmallows? Extra marshmallows, I promised, tucking the letter into my pocket. The paper felt like it was burning against my thigh. Later that night, after Sophia was asleep, I sat at my old easel in the garage, my makeshift studio. The canvas before me remained blank, just like the answers I sought. My phone buzzed with Wallace's nightly text. Working late again. Don't wait up. I picked up my brush, dipped it in crimson paint, and made a single violent stroke across the canvas. The color reminded me of the lipstick stain I'd found on his collar last month. He'd claimed it was from when I hugged him that morning. I hadn't worn red lipstick in years. My phone rang, startling me. It was Lorelei. You're in the garage again, aren't you? She asked without preamble. Where else would I be at midnight? Have you talked to him yet? I stared at the red slash on my canvas. About what? About how he's working late 4 nights a week? About how Sophia's asking Santa to bring her father home? Jesus, Alea! Lorelei's voice softened. What did Sophia say exactly? I pulled out the letter and read it to her, my voice cracking on the last few words. That manipulative bastard, Lorelei hissed. You know he's not working, right? Nobody works that much overtime in accounting. I know. The words felt like glass in my throat. I needed proof before I said anything. I needed to be sure. And now? Now I have my daughter writing letters to Santa about her absent father. I grabbed another brush, this time choosing midnight blue. You know what the worst part is? Last week, when he actually came home for dinner, Sophia was so excited she could barely eat. She kept watching him like he might disappear if she blinked. What are you going to do? The garage door suddenly hummed to life, making me jump. He's home. I have to go. Alea, wait! I ended the call just as Wallace walked in, his tie loosened, shirt wrinkled. He smiled that same smile that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made my stomach turn. Still painting? He asked, setting down his briefcase. It's late. Still working? I countered, watching his face carefully. It's late. Something flickered in his eyes. Worry? Guilt? But his smile never wavered. Year-end reports. You know how it is. He loosened his tie further. Jonathan's really pushing us to get everything done before the holidays. I thought about Sophia's letter, about the lipstick stain, about all the missed dinners and school events, about the way he always smelled like fresh cologne when he came home late, as if he'd just applied it. "How is Jonathan?" I asked casually, cleaning my brush. "Sophia's been asking about the company picnic. Remember last year when he gave her that giant teddy bear?" Wallace's hand paused on his briefcase. "Oh, he's good. Busy, you know. Actually, he's been out of town a lot lately." I nodded slowly, remembering the conversation I'd had with Jonathan's wife at the grocery store just yesterday, where she'd mentioned how nice it was having him home more since his surgery last month. "I'm heading up to bed," Wallace said, already turning away. "Don't stay up too late." I watched him go, my hand clenching around Sophia's letter in my pocket. The red slash across my canvas seemed to pulse in the dim garage light, like a warning sign I'd been ignoring for too long. "Don't worry," I whispered to the empty garage. "I won't." The art gallery buzzed with the kind of energy I hadn't felt in years. Paintings lined the pristine walls, each one competing for attention, but I couldn't take my eyes off the visitor log I'd just discovered at the reception desk. "Can I help you find anything?" The gallery assistant smiled politely. "No, I'm just—" My voice trailed off as I spotted a familiar signature. Wallace's distinctive scrawl, dated just 3 days ago. Another night he was supposedly working late. "Are you an artist?" the assistant asked, noticing my intense study of the guest book. Before I could answer, a striking woman in a black dress approached. "She absolutely is. I've seen her work at the community center." She extended her hand. "I'm Tessa. Your piece with the red slash through darkness? Breathtaking." I shook her hand, surprised. "That was just— I'm not really—" "Don't downplay it," Tessa interrupted. "Raw emotion like that deserves to be seen. Are you showing anywhere else?" My phone buzzed. Another text from Wallace. "Stuck in traffic, don't hold dinner." I switched off my phone. "Actually, I'm looking to get back into it seriously. Do you have any suggestions?" Tessa's eyes lit up. "The Spring Arts Festival is accepting submissions. It's in Millbrook, about 40 minutes from here." She pulled out her business card. "I'm on the selection committee. Send me your portfolio." Millbrook, the same town Wallace claimed his new client was in. Later that afternoon, I met Lorelei at our usual coffee spot. She nearly spilled her latte when I told her about the gallery. "He signed the guest book?" She shook her head. "Amateur move. That's not all." I pulled out my laptop, opening the browser history I'd recovered from our shared computer. "Look at these searches. Apartments in Millbrook. Best restaurants Millbrook. Jewelry stores Millbrook." "Jewelry stores?" Lorelei's eyes widened. "Oh, honey. I'm entering the Spring Arts Festival," I announced, changing the subject before tears could form. "It's time to dust off my degree in fine arts." "About damn time." Lorelei grinned. "But what's your real plan?" I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "The festival's a big deal in Millbrook. Local news coverage, social events. Perfect excuse to be in town." Lorelei finished. "Sneaky, I like it." That evening, I was in my garage studio when Wallace came home early for once. He paused in the doorway, frowning at my newly organized space. "You're painting again?" He loosened his tie. "I thought that was just a hobby. Things change." I continued working on my piece, a woman's silhouette, fractured into pieces. "How was work?" "Fine. Jonathan's got me handling that Millbrook account." "Millbrook." I kept my voice casual. "That's where the Spring Arts Festival is held. I'm entering this year." The paintbrush in my hand trembled slightly as I watched his reaction in my peripheral vision. His shoulders tensed. "You're what?" He stepped closer. "Since when are you interested in art festivals?" "Since always. You'd know that if you were ever home." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Silence filled the garage. Wallace's phone chimed. He checked it quickly, angling the screen away from me. "I should go shower before dinner," he muttered, already retreating. The next morning, I drove to Millbrook, Sophia's letter tucked in my purse like a talisman. The town was smaller than I expected, its main street lined with boutiques and cafes. I parked outside the festival office, but something across the street caught my eye. A real estate agency. Through the window, I could see a wall of property listings. And there, speaking to an agent, was Wallace. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I watched as he pointed to various listings, smiling and nodding. A woman joined him, placing her hand on his arm with casual intimacy. She was beautiful, younger, wearing a red dress that probably matched her lipstick. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Tessa. "I got your portfolio," she said without preamble. "It's perfect for what we're looking for. Raw, honest, emotional. The festival committee meets tomorrow. Can you make it?" I watched Wallace and the woman leave the real estate office, walking close together. "Tomorrow's perfect," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. I wouldn't miss it for anything. After hanging up, I sat in my car, watching them disappear around a corner. I pulled out Sophia's letter, reading it one more time. Then I took out my sketchbook and began to draw, capturing every detail of what I'd just witnessed. Every line felt like a weapon I was sharpening, every shadow a truth I was uncovering. The festival wouldn't know what hit it. Neither would Wallace. The community center's walls transformed under our hands as Tessa and I hung the last pieces for my exhibition. Each canvas told a story, my story, though viewers wouldn't know it yet. "This one's going to start conversations," Tessa said, stepping back from the centerpiece. A man's silhouette split between two frames, one showing a perfect family scene, the other depicting a shadowy figure in a doorway. "That's the point." I adjusted the lighting. Art should make people uncomfortable sometimes. My phone buzzed. Wallace. "Working late again. Big presentation tomorrow." I showed Tessa the message. "He has no idea I'm here." "Men never suspect their wives of having lives beyond them," she replied, rolling her eyes. "Speaking of which, have you met Jonathan's wife? She's coming tonight." My heart skipped. Wallace's boss's wife? Small world, right? The exhibition opening exceeded my expectations. The room filled with local art enthusiasts, critics, and curious onlookers. I spotted Jonathan's wife, Margaret, studying my split-frame piece. "It's about duality," I explained, approaching her. "How people can live two completely different lives." "Fascinating." She sipped her wine. "Jonathan mentioned Wallace has been handling some big accounts lately, keeping him quite busy." "Really?" I tilted my head. "Even after Jonathan's surgery?" Margaret frowned. "Surgery? The one that's kept him home more recently?" Her confusion deepened. "My husband hasn't had any surgery." Before she could ask more questions, Lorelei appeared, grabbing my arm. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone you need to meet." She pulled me toward a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit. "This is Jonathan." My throat went dry. Wallace's boss, the man who supposedly had him working late nights, was standing in my exhibition. "Remarkable work," he said, extending his hand. "Especially this series about deception. Very relevant to our times." I studied his face carefully. "Thank you. Actually, I'd love your opinion on something. My husband works for you." "Wallace?" Jonathan's expression shifted slightly. "Interesting coincidence. I was just telling my wife I haven't seen much of him lately. He's been managing that Millbrook project independently." "The one keeping him at the office until midnight?" I asked innocently. Jonathan's eyebrows rose. "We close the office at 6. The pieces clicked into place like a lock tumbling open. I excused myself and headed for the bathroom, hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. A quick search of local news in Millbrook brought up what I was looking for: a society page photo from last week's charity gala. There, in the background, Wallace stood with his arm around the woman in the red dress. The caption read, "Local business owner Daphne McGregor with guest at annual Children's Hospital benefit." I was still staring at the photo when the bathroom door opened. Tessa walked in. "You knew," I said, showing her the photo. "About Wallace and Daphne." She nodded slowly. I've seen them around Millbrook. I wasn't sure how to tell you. Why didn't you? Because you needed to find out on your own terms. To be ready. She leaned against the sink. The festival committee loves your work, by the way, especially the pieces about betrayal. I laughed bitterly. If they only knew. That night, I waited up for Wallace. He came home just before midnight, smelling of unfamiliar perfume. You're still awake. He loosened his tie. I thought, how was the presentation? I interrupted, not looking up from my sketchbook. Good. Successful. He set down his briefcase. What are you working on? I turned the sketch toward him, a detailed drawing of him and Daphne outside the real estate office. The color drained from his face. Alea, I can explain. Can you explain it to Sophia? I stood up, my voice deadly calm. Can you explain why she had to write to Santa, begging him to bring her daddy home? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I gathered my sketches. By the way, Jonathan came to my exhibition tonight. Funny, he seems surprised you've been working late, considering the office closes at 6. Wallace stepped toward me. Let's talk about this. No, I moved past him. I'm done talking. But don't worry, I won't say anything yet. I'm saving that for the Spring Arts Festival in Millbrook. I hear it's quite the social event. Daphne will be there, won't she? I left him standing in the garage, his mouth open, but no words coming out. Upstairs, I checked on Sophia, sleeping peacefully with her stuffed animals. Don't worry, baby, I whispered. Mommy's going to fix everything. I closed her door softly, already planning my next series of paintings. They would tell a story of betrayal, revenge, and justice, and this time, everyone would know exactly who inspired them. The Millbrook Art Center hummed with activity as Tessa and I set up my new collection. Each piece was carefully positioned to tell its story. Our story, though Daphne wouldn't know that yet. She's here, Tessa whispered, nodding toward the entrance. Daphne McGregor swept in wearing another designer dress, this time in deep purple. She moved through the space like she owned it, which, according to my research, she practically did. Tessa! Daphne air-kissed her cheeks. These new pieces are extraordinary. Who's the artist? This is Alea. Tessa gestured to me. The rising star I told you about. Daphne turned to me, her smile perfect and practiced. Your work is fascinating, especially this series. She gestured to the triptych before us. 3 panels showing a man's gradual transformation, from family man to shadow figure to stranger. It's about hidden lives, I explained, watching her face carefully. How well do we really know the people we love? Profound. She tilted her head. You must join us for the festival's opening gala. I'm hosting at my house. I wouldn't miss it. My phone buzzed. Wallace. I declined the call. Trouble? Daphne asked. Just my husband. He's been distant lately. Her expression softened with rehearsed sympathy. Men can be so complicated. That's why I've sworn off marriage. She laughed. Though there is someone special in my life now. Lucky man, I said, my voice steady despite my churning stomach. Speaking of men, Tessa interrupted, Jonathan's here. Wallace's boss approached us, his presence commanding attention. Ladies, he greeted, then stopped short when he saw me. Alea? What a surprise. Jonathan! Daphne hugged him warmly. You know Alia? She's Wallace's wife, he said slowly, realization dawning in his eyes as he looked between us. The color drained from Daphne's face. Wallace's? Yes, Wallace Allen? I smiled sweetly. Your star employee? The one who's been working late? Jonathan's expression hardened. Excuse us, ladies. He guided me away from the others. How long have you known? Long enough. I showed him the photos on my phone. Wallace and Daphne at restaurants, the real estate office, the charity gala. He's been lying to everyone, to me, to you, to her. Christ. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair. The Millbrook account was supposed to be 3 days a month, Max. Try 3 nights a week. I pulled out Sophia's letter. While our daughter writes to Santa, begging for her father to come home, Jonathan read the letter, his jaw tightening. This ends now. I'm calling a board meeting for Monday. Wait, I touched his arm. Not yet. The festival opening is Saturday. Let me handle this my way first. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. You're either brilliant or terrifying, possibly both. Back at home, Wallace was waiting in the garage. Where were you? Millbrook. I continued unpacking my art supplies. Setting up for the festival. You need to stop this. His voice shook slightly. Whatever you're planning. Planning? I turned to face him. Like you planned your life with Daphne? The house hunting? The jewelry shopping? It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you're living two lives. I think you're lying to everyone. Me, Sophia, Jonathan, Daphne. I picked up my sketchbook. Did you know she's hosting the festival opening at her house? She invited me personally today. Wallace grabbed my arm. Alea, please! Let go. My voice was ice. Or I'll call Jonathan right now and tell him exactly why his star employee has been falsifying overtime reports. He released me, stepping back. What do you want? I want you to keep playing your role. Go to work, come home late, live your lie. I opened my sketchbook to a new page. At least until Saturday. And then, I started sketching his face. Not the one he showed to the world, but the one I saw now. Desperate, cornered, afraid. Then everyone gets to see the truth. Through my art, through my eyes. I looked up from my drawing. How do you think Daphne will react when she realizes she's not the only one? When she sees herself in my paintings, the other woman who thought she was the only woman. Wallace left without another word. The garage door humming closed behind him. My phone lit up with a text from Tessa. Daphne's still here, asking questions about you. She's intrigued. I smiled, adding the final touches to my sketch. The festival couldn't come soon enough. My masterpiece was almost complete, and soon everyone would see the real picture, especially the woman in purple, who thought she'd found her perfect man. Daphne's mansion glittered under the evening sky as guests filtered in for the festival's opening gala. I adjusted my black dress, the one I'd bought specifically for tonight, and clutched my exhibition catalog like a weapon. Ready? Lorelei squeezed my arm. She'd insisted on coming for moral support. I have to be. I checked my phone. Wallace had texted earlier. Working late, don't wait up. Inside, the party was in full swing. Daphne held court in the living room, champagne in hand, while caterers weaved through the crowd with hors d'oeuvres. Allez! She waved me over. Everyone, this is the artist I've been raving about. Her exhibition is the highlight of the festival. I smiled, noting the photos on her mantel, her and Wallace at various events, his wedding ring conspicuously absent. Beautiful home, I said. Very intimate. Thank you. My boyfriend helped choose it. He has excellent taste. She glanced at her watch. He should be here soon, actually. Just working late. Isn't he always? I caught Jonathan's eye across the room. He nodded slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, Tessa called out, tapping her glass. If I could have your attention. As festival director, it's my pleasure to introduce our featured artist. Alea? I moved to the center of the room, my heart pounding. Thank you all for coming. My latest collection, Double Lives, explores the nature of deception and truth. I opened the exhibition catalog. Each piece tells a story. Some might find it familiar. The front door opened. Wallace walked in, freezing when he saw me. Darling! Daphne rushed to him. You're just in time. Alea was about to walk us through her work. Wallace's face went pale. Actually, I should... Please stay. I interrupted. This piece was inspired by you. The room fell silent as I unveiled the first canvas. It showed a man in a business suit, his shadow splitting into two distinct shapes, one of a father holding a child's hand, the other of a lover embracing another woman. I call it the perfect lie, I said, watching Daphne's expression shift from confusion to dawning horror. Notice how the man's wedding ring is visible in one shadow, but absent in the other. Wallace stepped forward. "Alea, don't!" "The next piece," I continued, revealing another canvas, shows a child's letter to Santa. I used actual text. "Dear Santa, I don't want any toys this year. Could you please make Daddy come home more?" Daphne's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. "Wedding ring?" Her voice trembled. "Wallace, what is she talking about? He hasn't told you?" I pulled out my phone, displaying our family photo. "About his wife? His daughter? The life he goes home to when he's not here?" The room erupted in whispers. Jonathan stepped forward, placing a hand on Wallace's shoulder. "We should talk about those overtime reports, Wallace." "You're married?" Daphne's voice rose. "All this time? The house hunting, the future we planned." "I can explain," Wallace started, but Daphne cut him off. "Explain! Explain!" She turned to me. "How long have you known?" "Since my daughter wrote that letter to Santa." I met her eyes. "I thought you deserved to know the truth. He's been lying to all of us." "Get out!" Daphne pointed at Wallace. "Both of you, get out of my house." "Actually," Jonathan interjected, "Wallace needs to come with me. The board will be very interested in his creative accounting." Wallace looked between us, his wife, his lover, his boss, then turned and fled. The door slammed behind him, leaving a deafening silence. Daphne sank onto her designer couch, mascara tracking down her cheeks. "I had no idea," she whispered. "All those nights he said he was working." "He was with his family," I finished softly, "until he wasn't." The party dissolved quickly after that. As guests filed out, Tessa approached with a small smile. "Well, that's one way to make an artistic statement." Later that night, I found Sophia still awake, waiting in her bed. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" I sat beside her, pulling her close. "Daddy made some bad choices, sweetheart. He hurt a lot of people." "Is that why you're sad sometimes?" "I was sad." I stroked her hair. "But I'm not anymore. Because I have you, and you're all I need." My phone buzzed with texts. From Jonathan about Monday's board meeting. From Tessa about exhibition sales. From Daphne asking to meet for coffee. But the one that caught my eye was from Wallace. "I'm sorry, I never meant for any of this." I deleted it without responding. In Sophia's room, surrounded by her stuffed animals and innocent dreams, I realized some apologies come too late. Sometimes the only closure is the one you create yourself, stroke by stroke, truth by truth, until the picture is finally complete. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Daphne walked in, looking nothing like the polished socialite from her parties. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her designer clothes replaced by yoga pants and an oversized sweater. "I almost didn't come," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "I almost didn't invite you." I pushed a latte toward her. "But we need to talk." "About Wallace?" She laughed bitterly. "What's left to say?" I pulled out a manila envelope. "These are copies of everything. Photos, bank statements, fake overtime reports. Jonathan's lawyers want to know if you'll testify about the money Wallace spent on your house down payment." "He used company funds?" Daphne's hand trembled as she took the envelope. "God, I'm such an idiot." We both were. I watched her flip through the documents. "He's been moving money around for months, setting up his perfect escape." The bell above the door chimed. Lorelei rushed in, waving a newspaper. "Have you seen this?" The business section headline read, "Local executive under investigation for fraud." "It's everywhere," Lorelei continued. "Jonathan's not holding back." Daphne stood abruptly. "I need some air." Outside, she leaned against the brick wall, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "I sold my condo," she said quietly, "to move in with him. He said we'd get married in the spring." "While I was helping Sophia write wedding invitations for her dolls," I added. "He watched our daughter play bride while planning a life with you." "Sophia!" Daphne's face crumpled. "I didn't know about her. I swear, if I'd known." My phone buzzed. Wallace again. This time, I answered. "Stop calling." My voice was steel. "Please," he begged. "Let me explain everything to Sophia. She needs to hear it from me." Like she needed to hear why you missed her school play? Her piano recital? I watched Daphne's expression change as she listened. "She wrote to Santa because she couldn't talk to you." "I'll make it right." "No, you won't." I ended the call. Daphne crushed her cigarette under her heel. "The festival committee wants to extend your exhibition. They say controversy sells. Are you okay with that? Display it all?" Her eyes hardened. "Every painting, every truth. Let everyone see what he did to us." Back home, I found Sophia at the kitchen table, drawing. Her picture showed 2 houses, one with her and me, another with Wallace and a question mark. "Is this where Daddy lives now?" she asked. I sat beside her, my heart breaking. "Something like that." "Jenny at school says her daddy lives in 2 houses. She gets extra presents at Christmas." The doorbell rang before I could respond. Through the window, I saw Wallace on the porch, clutching a stuffed animal. "Go to your room, sweetie," I said quickly. "Mommy needs to talk to Daddy." I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "You can't be here." "5 minutes," he pleaded. "Let me give this to Sophia. A teddy bear doesn't fix this." I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. Jonathan called. "The board meeting's tomorrow." "I'll lose everything." "You already did." I crossed my arms. "The lawyers will contact you about the divorce." "Divorce?" His face fell. "But Sophia—" "Will understand someday why her mother chose truth over lies." I turned to go back inside. "Leave the bear. I'll tell her it's from Santa." "Alea, wait!" He grabbed my arm. "What about all our years together? Don't they mean anything?" "They meant everything." I pulled away. "That's why it hurts so much." Later that night, Lorelai came over with wine and takeout. We sat in my garage studio, surrounded by new canvases. "What's next?" she asked, watching me sketch. "The lawyers want to meet tomorrow after Jonathan's board meeting." I added shadows to my drawing. A little girl holding a teddy bear, standing between 2 worlds. Then the divorce proceedings begin. "And the art?" I looked at my latest piece, a woman emerging from shattered glass, each fragment reflecting a different truth. "The art stays." I picked up my brush. It's time to paint my next chapter. My phone lit up with a text from Daphne. "Meeting with Jonathan's lawyers in the morning. Bringing everything. He doesn't get to win this one." I showed Lorelai the message. "Looks like I'm not the only one choosing truth." "Good." She raised her wine glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echoed. But my eyes drifted to Sophia's latest drawing on my workbench. In bright crayon colors, she'd drawn herself holding hands with me, both of us smiling. Above us, in her wobbly handwriting, me and Mommy's happy ending. I picked up my brush again, dipping it in bright yellow. The color of hope, of morning sun, of fresh starts. Sometimes the most beautiful art comes from the deepest pain, and I was finally ready to paint something new. The corporate boardroom felt colder than I remembered from the company Christmas party. Jonathan sat at the head of the table, flanked by lawyers. Wallace slumped in his chair, his usual confidence shattered. "The evidence is conclusive," Jonathan's lawyer announced, spreading documents across the polished table. "Falsified overtime reports, misappropriated company funds, unauthorized use of corporate accounts." Daphne sat across from me, her testimony notes arranged neatly before her. She hadn't looked at Wallace once. "Mr. Allen?" Jonathan leaned forward. "Would you like to explain the $100,000 transferred to a private account in Millbrook?" Wallace's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but he shook his head. "It was for the house. For Daphne and me. While maintaining your primary residence with your wife and daughter?" Jonathan's voice could have frozen hell. "Using company money? I can pay it back. That's not the point." Jonathan slid forward a stack of papers. "This is your termination agreement. Sign it, and we won't press criminal charges." The pen trembled in Wallace's hand as he signed. Outside the boardroom, he tried to approach me. "Don't." I held up my hand. The divorce papers are being delivered today. At least let me explain to Sophia. You mean the daughter you were ready to abandon? Daphne's voice cut through the corridor. The one who wrote to Santa because she couldn't reach her own father? Wallace stepped back as if slapped. I never meant to get caught? She finished. Save it for your lawyers. Back at home, Sophia was waiting with Lorelai, showing off her latest art project. A family tree with branches spreading in different directions. Look, Mommy! She pointed to the drawing. Ms. Roberts said families can look different, and that's okay. I hugged her tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. That's absolutely right, baby. The doorbell rang. It was the courier with the divorce papers. As I signed for them, another car pulled up. Wallace. Sophia, go help Aunt Lorelai with dinner, I said quickly. But Daddy's here. She moved toward the door. Not now, sweetie, please. Wallace walked up the driveway as Sophia disappeared inside, his shoulders sagging under his untucked shirt. You got the papers? He asked. I held up the envelope. Just arrived. I lost everything today. His voice cracked. The job, the house in Millbrook, Daphne. Don't take Sophia too. You took yourself away from Sophia long before any of this. I thrust the papers at him. Sign them. Then we can discuss supervised visitation. Supervised? He recoiled. I'm her father. A father who was ready to start a new family and abandon his daughter. I kept my voice low, aware of Sophia possibly listening. You don't get to walk away and then come back on your terms. The kitchen window slid open. Daddy? Sophia called out. Are you coming to dinner? Wallace looked at me pleadingly. Not tonight, sweetheart, I called back. Daddy's just picking up some papers. But I made a picture for him. I watched the pain flash across Wallace's face. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what Sophia felt every time he chose his other life over her. I'll sign, he whispered, taking the papers. But please, don't keep her from me. You did that yourself. I turned to go inside. Have your lawyer contact mine about visitation arrangements. Later that night, after Sophia was asleep, I sat in my studio staring at my latest painting, a phoenix rising from scattered photographs and torn documents. My phone buzzed with a text from Daphne. Just sold the ring he gave me, using the money to start fresh in Seattle. Another message popped up, this time from Jonathan. Board approved your art installation for the lobby. When can you start? The garage door hummed open. Lorelai walked in with 2 glasses of wine. Sophia asleep? I nodded. Finally. She wanted to know if Daddy would come to her art show next week. What did you tell her? The truth. That sometimes people we love make choices that hurt us, but it doesn't mean we stop loving them. I picked up my brush. We just love them differently. Speaking of differently, Lorelai grinned. Tessa called. The gallery in New York wants to feature your Double Lives series. I looked at my latest work, then at Sophia's family tree drawing pinned to the wall. Both told stories of broken things being remade into something new, something honest. Tell them yes, I said, dipping my brush in paint the color of sunrise. It's time to show the world what rising from ashes really looks like. My phone lit up one last time. Wallace. Signed papers being delivered tomorrow. I'm sorry for everything. I deleted the message without responding. Some apologies don't need answers. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any words could. Instead, I picked up my brush and kept painting, adding light to the darkness, turning pain into art, making beauty from the broken pieces of what used to be. The New York gallery buzzed with opening night energy as Sophia bounced between my paintings, proudly explaining them to anyone who would listen. This one's about Daddy's big mistake, she told an elderly couple, pointing to the split-frame piece. But this one's about Mommy being strong. She gestured to the phoenix painting. Sophia, I called out, let the nice people explore on their own. But I'm helping! She twirled in her new party dress, the one she'd picked specially for tonight. Lorelai appeared with champagne. The Times art critic is here, and you'll never guess who just walked in. Through the gallery's glass doors, I saw Wallace hesitate before entering. He looked different, older somehow. Sophia spotted him too. "Daddy!" She ran to him, stopping just short of hugging him. "You came." "I promised, didn't I?" He knelt to her level. "Your mom's art is important." "Did you see my picture?" She pointed to a small frame nestled between my larger pieces. Her family tree drawing, now part of the exhibition. "It's beautiful." His voice cracked slightly. "Just like you." I approached them, glass in hand. "You're early for pickup." "Actually," he straightened up, "I was hoping to see the show, if that's okay." Before I could respond, Jonathan's voice boomed across the gallery. "Alea! The Tokyo Gallery called. They want the entire collection." Wallace's eyes widened. "Tokyo?" "Life goes on," I said simply. "People rebuild." Sophia tugged at my dress. "Can I show Daddy the surprise painting?" "Surprise painting?" Wallace asked. I nodded to Sophia. "Go ahead." She led us to a canvas covered in black cloth. "This one's new," she announced. "Mommy finished it yesterday." I pulled away the cloth, revealing a portrait of Sophia sitting at her art table, surrounded by drawings. Through a window behind her, two separate scenes played out, one showing me in my studio, another showing Wallace at his supervised visits, both of us watching our daughter create. "Hi, it's called New Normal," I explained, "because sometimes broken things can't be fixed, but they can be transformed." Wallace stared at the painting, his hands trembling slightly. "You captured her perfectly." "That's what mothers do." I turned to Sophia. "Sweetie, why don't you show Daddy your art corner? The gallery set up a special space for kids to draw." As they walked away, Daphne appeared beside me. "He looks terrible." "Seattle suits you better anyway," I replied, noting her renewed confidence. "The tech startup's taking off." She smiled. "Thank you, by the way, for the wake-up call we both needed." Across the gallery, Sophia was showing Wallace her latest drawings. He sat beside her, carefully keeping the court-mandated distance, learning to love her in this new way. "Your next series," Tessa joined us. "What's it about?" Healing," I said, watching my daughter teach her father how to draw a proper phoenix. But not the kind that erases scars, the kind that turns them into strength. The gallery director clinked his glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, a toast to our featured artist, whose Double Lives series has captured international attention." I barely heard the rest of his speech. Instead, I watched Sophia drawing, her small hands creating something new from blank paper, just as I had done with blank canvases and a broken heart. Later, as Wallace prepared to leave, Sophia hugged him goodbye. "See you Saturday, Daddy?" "Wouldn't miss it." He turned to me. "The painting, it's incredible." "Life is," I replied, "when you're honest about it." After he left, Sophia and I stood before New Normal, her hand in mine. "Are you still sad, Mommy?" "No, baby." I squeezed her hand. "I'm strong, like the phoenix in your drawings." "Like us," she corrected. The gallery slowly emptied, but requests for interviews and international showings piled up on my phone. Lorelei was already talking about hiring an agent. Through the windows, I could see the New York skyline glittering like possibilities. "Ready to go home?" I asked Sophia. She shook her head, pulling out her sketchbook. "One more drawing." I watched her work, adding colors and shapes until a picture emerged. Two phoenixes, one big and one small, flying together toward a rising sun. "It's us," she explained, "making everything beautiful again." I hung her drawing next to New Normal, where it belonged. Proof that even the smallest artists know that life's masterpiece isn't in the perfection of the original sketch, but in how beautifully you redesign it when things go wrong. The gallery lights dimmed, leaving just enough glow to illuminate our reflection in the window. Mother and daughter, standing amid the art we'd made from truth, ready to paint whatever came next.
The day I found out my sister stole my college fund, I was organising my financial aid documents at our kitchen table. My acceptance letter to Stanford lay beside me, my dream school since I was 12. I'd worked my entire life for this moment, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while juggling 3 part-time jobs to supplement the savings account my parents had started for me when I was born. My name is Mary, and that was the day my family showed me exactly who they were. What do you mean the account is empty? I stared at my mother across the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I held the bank statement. There should be over $40,000 in there. Mom stirred her coffee casually, not meeting my eyes. Sydney needed it more than you did, honey. You're smart. You'll figure something out. The room started spinning. Sydney needed my college fund for what exactly? As if summoned, my sister sauntered into the kitchen wearing designer clothes I'd never seen before. A brand new iPhone peeked out of her Gucci purse. Oh my God, is this about the money? Sydney rolled her eyes. You're being so dramatic. I needed to establish myself socially before starting my influencer career. Image is everything these days. You spent my college fund on clothes and accessories. My voice cracked. Mom, Dad, you let her do this. Dad walked in, newspaper tucked under his arm. Princess, your sister has a real shot at making it big on social media. It's an investment in her future. Besides, you can always go to community college. I felt like I'd been slapped. An investment? What about my future? I got into Stanford, Sydney laughed. Actually laughed. Please. Like you could handle Stanford anyway. You should be thanking me for saving you from embarrassing yourself. Mary, Mom sighed. We always knew Sydney had that special something. You're more practical. You'll be fine wherever you go. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. Practical? I worked 3 jobs while maintaining perfect grades. I earned that money. It was meant for my education. Oh, stop being so selfish, Sydney snapped. I already have 10,000 followers. Once I hit it big, I'll pay you back double. When did you take it? I demanded. How long have you all been lying to me? Mum and Dad exchanged glances. We transferred it to Sydney's account about 6 months ago, Dad admitted. She had a solid business plan. 6 months, I interrupted. While I was working overtime at the diner, while I was applying for scholarships. Look what I got with it, Sydney twirled, showing off her outfit. Don't you think I look amazing? This is what success looks like, Mary. Something inside me broke. I walked to my room without another word, pulled out my suitcase and started packing. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. I could hear them talking in the kitchen. She'll get over it, Mum was saying. She always does. Should we check on her? Dad asked. Let her throw her little tantrum, Sydney replied. She's just jealous of my potential. I zipped up my suitcase and walked back to the kitchen. I'm leaving. Don't be ridiculous, Mom scoffed. Where would you go? Anywhere but here. I pulled out my phone and dialed my friend Brady's number. Hey, can I crash at your place for a while? Of course, he answered immediately. Everything okay? I'll explain when I get there. I hung up and faced my family one last time. You know what's funny? I always knew Sydney was your favourite, but I never thought you'd steal from me to prove it. We didn't steal anything, Dad protested. We redistributed family resources. Save it. I headed for the door. I hope those followers are worth it, Sydney, because you just bought them with my trust and respect. Mary, don't be dramatic, Mom started. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being practical, remember? And practically speaking, I no longer have a family. I walked out, wheeling my suitcase behind me. As I reached the sidewalk, I heard Sydney call out, "You'll regret this when I'm famous." I didn't look back. I had exactly $342.87 in my personal account, a part-time job at a diner, and an acceptance letter to a school I could no longer afford. But I also had something else. A burning determination to prove them all wrong. Brady was waiting for me when I arrived at his apartment 20 minutes later. One look at my face and he knew something was seriously wrong. Want to talk about it? He asked, helping me with my suitcase. I took a deep breath. Yeah, but first, I need to figure out how to apply for student loans. I'm going to Stanford with or without their help. Living out of Brady's spare room wasn't exactly the fresh start I'd imagined for myself, but it was better than going back home. The first week was the hardest. I'd wake up confused, reaching for my childhood alarm clock before remembering where I was. "You need to eat something," Brady insisted one morning, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across his kitchen counter. "You've got that financial aid meeting at Stanford today." I pushed the eggs around with my fork. "What's the point? Even with loans and aid, I'm still short by thousands." "Then we'll figure something out," Brady sat beside me. "But you're not giving up. I didn't watch you work your ass off for 4 years just to let your sister's shopping spree derail your future." The financial aid officer's name was Rachel, and she changed my life that afternoon. "Your situation is unusual," she said, reviewing my documents. "But not impossible. Tell me, Mary, how badly do you want to attend Stanford?" "More than anything," I replied without hesitation. "I'll work 3 jobs if I have to." Rachel smiled. "That won't be necessary. There's a work-study program in my department. It won't cover everything, but combined with loans and a partial scholarship, I think we can make this work. The catch is, you'll need to take a reduced course load. It might take 5 years instead of 4. "I'll take it," I said immediately. "I don't care if it takes 10 years. That evening, I picked up an extra shift at the diner to celebrate. The irony wasn't lost on me, celebrating the chance to work more by working more. As I refilled coffee cups, my phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "OMG sis, just hit 15K followers. Told you this was a good investment. Miss you." I deleted it without responding. Months passed. I settled into a routine. Classes in the morning, work-study in the afternoon, diner shifts at night. Brady's spare room became my sanctuary, decorated with second-hand furniture I'd picked up from yard sales. "You should see their Facebook posts," Brady said one evening as we shared takeout. "Sydney's influencer career isn't exactly taking off. Your dad's business isn't doing great either." "I don't want to know," I replied, focusing on my noodles. "They're not my problem anymore." But late that night, I found myself scrolling through their profiles. Sydney's follower count had plateaued. Her latest posts were mostly ads for sketchy weight loss teas. Mum's usually cheerful updates had taken on a worried tone, with vague references to challenging times and keeping faith. The next morning, Rachel caught me yawning during our work-study shift. "Late night?" she asked, handing me a stack of files to organise. "Just thinking too much." I hesitated. "Can I ask you something? How do you know when you've made the right choice?" Rachel set down her coffee. "Is this about your family? How did you—" "Mary, you're not the first student I've seen whose family let them down. But you're one of the few who turned that disappointment into determination." She leaned forward. "The right choice isn't always the easy one. Sometimes it's the one that hurts, but helps you grow. I just feel—" I searched for the words. "Lost, sometimes, like I'm floating without an anchor." "Then build new anchors," she said simply. "Create your own support system. Look around, you've already started." She was right. Between Brady's unwavering support, Rachel's mentorship, and my own stubborn persistence, I was slowly building something new. Something that was entirely mine. That night at the diner, I overheard 2 customers discussing a new tech startup that was revolutionizing financial software. They mentioned they were hiring entry-level programmers. "Excuse me," I interrupted, setting down their coffee. "I couldn't help overhearing. I'm actually studying computer science at Stanford." 2 weeks later, I quit the diner for an internship that paid twice as much. When I told Brady, he insisted on taking me out to celebrate. "To new beginnings," he toasted, raising his glass. "And old friends," I added, clinking my glass against his. "I wouldn't be here without you, Brady." "Please," he scoffed. "You did all the hard work. I just provided the couch." My phone buzzed. Another text from Sydney. "Mom and Dad are worried about you. At least let them know you're okay." I turned off my phone and focused on Brady. "Tell me about your day instead." As we talked and laughed, I realized Rachel was right. I was building new anchors, creating my own definition of family. And for the first time since that day in the kitchen, I felt truly, completely okay. Little did I know that in a few years, those same people who had laughed at my dreams would be the ones desperately seeking my help. But that's another story. One that would prove that karma has perfect timing. 5 years after walking out of my childhood home, I stood on Stanford's graduation stage, my heart pounding as they called my name. The internship had turned into a full-time position, and I'd managed to graduate with honors despite my extended timeline. "Mary!" Brady shouted from the crowd, whistling loudly. Beside him, Rachel beamed, looking every bit as proud as a mother should. Later, at the small celebration dinner Brady organized, Rachel handed me an envelope. "Open it," she urged, practically bouncing in her seat. Inside was a job offer, Director of Student Financial Services at Stanford. "But that's your job," I said, confused. "Was my job," Rachel corrected. "I'm moving to the dean's office, and I recommended you as my replacement. You've lived it, Mary. You know what these kids are going through. Who better to help them?" I looked at the salary figure and nearly choked on my wine. It was more money than I'd ever imagined making, especially combined with my tech job, which I'd decided to keep part-time. "Speech!" Brady called out, raising his glass. "To the 2 people who became my real family," I said, my voice thick, "who believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Speaking of family," Brady said carefully, sliding his phone across the table, "you might want to see this." It was a local news article. "McCoy Technologies files for bankruptcy," the headline read. My father's company, once the pride of his life, was failing. The article mentioned mounting debts and mismanagement. "There's more," Brady added. "Sydney's influencer career." Well, I pulled up her Instagram. Her follower count had dropped dramatically, and her last post was a tearful video about being scammed by a fake modeling agency. She'd lost thousands of dollars, probably what remained of my college fund. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked softly. "Honestly, I feel nothing." I handed the phone back to Brady. They made their choice 5 years ago. The next morning, I walked into my new office at Stanford, ready to start my first day. By lunch, I'd already helped 2 students figure out their financial aid options. As I was reviewing a third case, my office phone rang. "Mary?" "It's Mom." My hand froze over the paperwork. "How did you get this number?" "Your old friend Jessica works in administration. Please don't hang up." Her voice cracked. "We need to talk." "We needed to talk 5 years ago," I replied coldly, "before you let Sydney steal my future." "She didn't steal—" Mum caught herself. "Look, things are difficult right now. Your father's business, Sydney's investments. We're losing the house, Mary." "That sounds like a personal problem." "We're family," she pleaded. "Family?" I laughed. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't dismiss dreams as impractical. Family doesn't—" "We made a mistake," she interrupted. "We know that now. Please, can we just meet? Have dinner? Your father and Sydney will be there. We need to make things right." I was about to refuse when Rachel's words from years ago echoed in my mind. Sometimes the right choice is the one that hurts but helps you grow. "Fine," I said finally. "Thursday night. Send me the details." After hanging up, I called Brady. "They want to meet," I told him. "Are you going?" "Yes." I took a deep breath. But not for them. For me. I want them to see exactly what they threw away. That evening, I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting my blazer. My reflection showed someone different from the broken girl who'd fled with a single suitcase. This woman was successful, confident, and, most importantly, whole. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "Can't wait to see you, sis. We have so much catching up to do." I thought about all the times I'd dreamed of this moment, of showing them how wrong they were about me. But now that it was here, I realized something important. I didn't need their validation anymore. "You don't have to do this," Brady said when I called him again. "I know." I grabbed my car keys. "But I want to. Besides, I'm curious to see what they think constitutes making things right." "Want me to come with?" "No," I replied, thinking of the folder I'd prepared with bank statements, achievement certificates, and my new business cards. "I can handle this." As I drove to the restaurant, I thought about how life has a way of coming full circle. 5 years ago, They'd laughed at my dreams. Now they needed my help. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I wasn't the same person they'd betrayed. I was stronger now, wiser, and I had a feeling this dinner was going to be very interesting indeed. The restaurant they chose was significantly less upscale than the ones they used to frequent. I spotted them immediately. Mom nervously adjusting her knockoff handbag, Dad's shoulders slumped in his worn suit, and Sydney picking at her chipped nail polish. "Mary!" Sydney jumped up, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by fast fashion basics. "Let's skip the pretense," I said, taking my seat. "You didn't invite me here for a family reunion." Mom's face fell. "Can't we at least catch up first? You look different." Success does that to a person. I placed my folder on the table. "So, who wants to start?" "Dad, how's the business?" He flinched. We've hit a rough patch." "The market?" "Filed for bankruptcy," I corrected. "Sydney, how's the influencer career?" She stared at her water glass. "That's not fair." "Neither was stealing my college fund, but here we are." "Mary," Mom interrupted. "We know we made mistakes, but we're still family." "Family?" I opened my folder and pulled out my bank statement from 5 years ago. "Let's talk about family. Here's the account you emptied. $43,000 to be exact, my entire future." "We can explain," Dad started. "I'm not finished." I pulled out my Stanford acceptance letter. "Remember this? The one you said I couldn't handle?" "Well, guess what?" I slid my diploma across the table. "Graduated with honours, while working 2 jobs. Sydney's eyes widened at my business cards. "Director of Student Financial Services, and you work in tech too?" "Turns out I'm not just practical, I'm actually pretty damn successful." I leaned back. "Now, why don't you tell me why we're really here?" Mom burst into tears. "We're losing everything, Mary. The house, the cars, your father's business debts." "The modelling agency scammed me," Sydney added quietly. "All my followers left when I couldn't maintain my lifestyle." "We need..." Dad cleared his throat. "We need help. Alone. Just until we get back on our feet." I let the silence stretch. A waiter approached, but I waved him away. "How much?" $75,000, Dad mumbled, "to keep the house and settle the urgent debts." I pulled out my phone, pulled up my banking app. "I could transfer it right now, I have the money." Their faces lit up with hope. "But before I do," I continued, "I want you to explain something to me. That day in the kitchen, when you told me I wasn't special enough for Stanford, did you believe that?" "We were wrong," Mom whispered. "We were so wrong." "That's not what I asked." I put my phone away. "Did you believe it?" Sydney spoke up, her voice small. "I did. I thought I was better than you, that I deserved it more. And now I know I was just entitled and stupid." She wiped her eyes. "I ruined your dreams for Instagram likes." Dad reached across the table. "Princess, please, we can't lose the house. Your mother and sister will have nowhere to go." I stood up, gathering my folder. "I'll think about it." "That's it?" Sydney's voice cracked. "You're just leaving?" "Unlike some people, I don't make major financial decisions on impulse." I pulled on my coat. "I'll contact you with my decision in 3 days." "Mary, wait," Mom called as I turned to leave. "What happened to you? You used to be so sweet." I paused, looking back at their desperate faces. I grew up. I learned that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. And I learned that I'm worth more than you ever thought I was. "We know that now," Sydney whispered. "No," I corrected her. "You know you need me now. There's a difference." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Brady. "How'd it go?" I typed back, "They need $75K. They're desperate." His response was immediate. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, thinking of the document I'd asked my lawyer to draw up yesterday just in case. Something they'll never expect. Because while they thought they were asking for a loan, I had a different proposition in mind. One that would make them face exactly what they'd done to me, dollar by dollar, day by day. They wanted my help? Fine. But this time, we'd do it my way. And my way involved a contract that would make them understand the true cost of betrayal. I started my car, already drafting the terms in my head. 3 days. In 3 days, they'd learn exactly what kind of woman their practical daughter had become. 3 days later, I walked into my lawyer's office where my family was already waiting. Their faces lit up with hope when they saw me. Hope that quickly faded when they noticed the thick contract I was carrying. "What's this?" Dad asked, eyeing the document. "My terms." I sat down, sliding a copy to each of them. "You want $75,000? Here's how you'll get it." Mom flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. "A contract? But we're family." "Family didn't stop you from stealing from me." I nodded to my lawyer. "Please explain the terms." He cleared his throat. "The $75,000 will be disbursed in monthly installments of $5,000, provided all conditions are met." "Conditions?" Sydney interrupted. "What conditions?" "First," I said, "Sydney needs to get a real job. Not influencing, not modelling. An actual 9-to-5 position. Each month she'll put half her salary into a scholarship fund I'm establishing for students whose families have abandoned them financially." Sydney's face reddened. "That's not—" "Second," I continued, "Dad needs to take a financial management course and work with a court-appointed bankruptcy advisor. No more risky business ventures." Dad started to protest, but I held up my hand. "Third, Mum will volunteer 10 hours per week at the University Financial Aid Office, helping students figure out how to pay for college when their families let them down." "This is ridiculous," Mum sputtered. "We're asking for help, not punishment." "No," I corrected her. "You're asking for money. I'm offering a chance at redemption. There's more." My lawyer turned to the next page. "The house will be sold. A smaller, more affordable property will be purchased with part of the funds. The remaining money will go toward debt settlement." "Sell the house?" Dad exploded. "That's our home." "No, it's a symbol of your pride that you can no longer afford." I leaned forward. Just like my college fund was supposed to be untouchable. But here we are. Sydney was reading through the contract, her face pale. "It says here we have to attend family therapy?" "Monthly sessions, all of us." I met their shocked stares. "You want to talk about family? Let's talk about it with a professional who can help us unpack exactly what happened 5 years ago. And if we refuse?" Mum's voice was barely a whisper. "Then you get nothing." I stood up. "You have 1 hour to decide. I'll be in the coffee shop downstairs." Brady was waiting for me there. "How'd they take it?" "About as well as expected." I stirred my coffee. "They thought I'd just write a check and forget everything that happened." "Will they sign?" "They don't have a choice. The bank's foreclosing next month and Sydney's credit is destroyed from her failed influencer ventures." 45 minutes later, my lawyer called. They were ready to talk. I returned to find them huddled together, looking defeated. "Before you sign," I said, "I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability." "It feels like punishment," Sydney muttered. "Really? Because to me it feels like an opportunity, the kind you didn't give me." I pulled out my own pen. "I'll sign first, to show you I'm committed to this. All of it, including the therapy." Dad picked up his pen next. "We really don't have a choice, do we?" "You always have a choice, just like you had a choice 5 years ago." I watched as he signed. "The difference is this time I'm giving you a chance to make the right one." Mom signed next, tears falling onto the paper. Sydney was last, her signature shaky but determined. "What now?" she asked. "Now," I said, gathering the contracts. "You start over. Just like I had to. The first installment will be transferred tomorrow. Sydney, I have 3 job interviews lined up for you next week. Dad, your first financial management class starts Monday. And the therapy?" Mom asked. "First session is Thursday at 6 p.m. Don't be late." I handed them each a copy of the signed contract. "Welcome to your fresh start. Try not to waste it this time." As they filed out, Sydney lingered behind. "Why are you really doing this? You could have just said no." I thought about the scared girl I'd been, packing her bags with shaking hands. About Brady's spare room and Rachel's kindness. About late nights studying and early mornings working. Because someone once told me that the right choice isn't always the easy one. I met her eyes. Sometimes it's the one that hurts but helps you grow. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. As she left, I pulled out my phone to text Brady. They signed. All of them. His response came quickly. "You're either the most forgiving person I know or the most brilliant." I smiled, thinking of the journey ahead. Maybe I'm both. The first therapy session was as uncomfortable as I'd expected. We sat in a semicircle, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, while Dr. Roberts observed us with practiced patience. "Let's start with that day," she said. "The day Mary discovered her college fund was gone." "Do we have to?" Sydney squirmed in her seat. "Yes," I said firmly. "We do." "I remember feeling justified," Sydney admitted after a long pause, "like I deserved it more because I had this grand plan to be famous. And now?" Dr. Roberts prompted. "Now I'm working as a junior administrative assistant, making coffee for people Mary's age who are already executives." Sydney's voice cracked. "I wasted everything. Her money, my time, my reputation." Mom reached for her tissue box. "We enabled her. We really thought, that I wasn't worth investing in," I finished. "That I was just the practical one, the backup plan." "No," Dad protested. "We never thought." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, played the video I'd recorded that day. Their own voices filled the room. "Sydney has that special something. You're more practical. Like you could handle Stanford anyway." Dr. Roberts watched their faces as they heard themselves. "That must have been painful to record." "I listen to it sometimes," I admitted, "when I'm doubting myself. It reminds me how far I've come." Sydney burst into tears. "I was horrible. I can't believe I laughed at your dreams." "Sydney," Dr. Roberts said gently, "why do you think you did that?" "Because I was terrified of failing." The words exploded out of her. "Mary always knew what she wanted. She worked hard, had real goals. I thought if I could be famous fast, I could prove I was special too." The session continued, peeling back layers of resentment, jealousy, and misplaced priorities. By the end, we were all emotionally exhausted. In the parking lot, Sydney caught up with me. "I got my first paycheck yesterday." "I know. The scholarship fund received your deposit." "It felt good, actually. Earning something real." She hesitated. "My co-worker mentioned they're looking for someone in the IT department. I thought, maybe I could take some coding classes." I studied her face, searching for any trace of the entitled girl who'd laughed at my ambitions. Instead, I saw something new: humility, maybe even determination. "The community college has excellent night classes," I said finally. "I could help you with the application." The next week, Dad called me to his financial management class. Would you mind sitting in? There's something I need to say." I found him standing at the front of the class, hands shaking slightly. "This is my daughter Mary," he told the room full of other struggling business owners. 5 years ago, I stole her college fund to finance my other daughter's social media career. I lost everything: my business, my home, and most importantly, my daughter's trust. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let pride blind you to what really matters." Later, over coffee, he showed me his new budget plan. "The bankruptcy advisor says if we stick to this, we could be debt-free in 3 years." "That's good, Dad." "Mary," his voice was small, "I'm sorry, not just for the money, for not believing in you." Mom's transformation was slower, more resistant, but after a month of working in the financial aid office, something changed. "I met a girl today," she told me during our next therapy session. "She reminded me of you. Brilliant, hardworking, but her parents, they didn't think college was necessary for a girl." She wiped her eyes. "I helped her find scholarships, loans, work-study opportunities. I kept thinking about how no one did that for you, how we did the opposite." "Did she get the funding she needed?" I asked. Mom smiled through her tears. "Yes. She starts next semester." Dr. Roberts leaned forward. "How did that make you feel, helping her?" Like I was finally doing what a mother should do, supporting someone's dreams instead of crushing them. As I drove home that evening, Brady called to check in. How was therapy? Surprising, I answered. They're actually trying, really trying. And how do you feel about that? I thought about Sydney's coding classes, Dad's humility, Mom's gradual understanding. Cautiously optimistic, but also what? Proud of myself. Not for succeeding despite them, but for giving them a chance to become better people. I pulled into my driveway. Even if it took a legally binding contract to make it happen. That's because you're not just the practical one anymore, Brady said. You're the strong one, the wise one. He was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving, and somehow impossibly helping my family learn to thrive too. On my terms this time. 6 months into our contract, I sat in the audience at Sydney's community college, watching her give a presentation for her introductory programming class. Her hands shook slightly as she demonstrated the simple app she'd built, but her voice was steady. And that's how I created my first budgeting application, she concluded, inspired by my own experience with financial mismanagement. During the Q&A, someone asked about her previous career as an influencer. Actually, Sydney replied, meeting my eyes in the audience, that wasn't a career. That was me stealing my sister's future because I was too afraid to build my own. This, learning to code, working a real job, building something useful, this is my career. After the presentation, I found her in the hallway. So, she asked nervously, what did you think? The code needs work, I said honestly, but the concept is solid. A budgeting app for college students. I thought, maybe it could help prevent others from making my mistakes. She clutched her laptop. Would you maybe help me develop it further? Before I could answer, Mom and Dad arrived, having slipped in late. Sorry we missed the presentation, Dad said. The financial management class ran long, but look, he pulled out a certificate. Finally completed the course. And I helped 3 students secure full rides today, Mom added. One of them cried. I used to think those tears were dramatic, but now... She trailed off, remembering. How about we discuss Sydney's app over dinner, I suggested. I know a great Thai place nearby. At the restaurant, Sydney spread out her design notes, while Dad reviewed her projected development costs. This could actually work, he said, running the numbers. Small scale at first, but with the right marketing strategy. No, Sydney interrupted. No more get-rich-quick schemes. I want to do this right, build it properly, test it thoroughly. Mary, that's why I want your help. Not for shortcuts, but for guidance. I felt something shift in my chest. Okay, I said, but we do this my way. Proper development cycles, user testing, gradual rollout. Deal, she beamed. Thank you, sis. Later that week, during our therapy session, Dr. Roberts noted the change in our dynamic. Sydney's asking for help instead of taking, she observed. Mary's offering guidance instead of judgment. This is significant progress. I've been thinking, Mum said suddenly, about the scholarship fund. What if we contributed more? Not just Sydney's portion of her salary, but something from all of us? We could call it the Second Chance Fund, Dad suggested, for students who need help starting over. I felt tears prick my eyes. You'd do that. We owe you so much more than money, Sydney said softly. We owe you an entire future that we tried to steal. Maybe this way, we can help give other students the chance we almost took from you. Dr. Roberts smiled. Mary, how does that make you feel? Validated, I admitted. Like you finally understand what education means, what dreams mean. After the session, Dad pulled me aside. The house goes on the market next week. Are you okay with that? No, he said honestly. But I'm learning that being okay with something isn't as important as doing what's right. We found a smaller place, closer to Sydney's school, and your mum's volunteer work. And your new job. He smiled wryly. Being a junior accountant at 60 isn't exactly what I planned, but it's honest work. That means something now. That night, I met Brady for our weekly dinner. "You're looking thoughtful," he noted. "Sydney asked for my help with her app today. Actually asked instead of assuming or demanding. And I wanted to help her. Genuinely wanted to." I pushed my food around. "Is that weird? After everything?" "No," Brady said. "It's growth. On both sides." My phone buzzed. A text from Sydney. "Reviewed your coding suggestions. Makes so much sense now. Thank you for being patient with me. Coffee tomorrow to discuss the next module?" As I typed back yes, I realized something profound. The contract I'd drafted 6 months ago wasn't just changing them, it was changing me too. The walls I'd built for protection were slowly transforming into bridges. "You know what's funny?" I told Brady. "I created that contract to make them understand what they'd done to me, but watching them actually do the work, make real changes, it's healing something in me too." "That's because you're giving them what they didn't give you," he replied. "A chance to prove they can be better." I thought about Sydney's app, Dad's humble new job, Mum's dedication to helping students. Small steps, but real ones. Genuine changes, not just performances for my benefit. "Maybe," I said, "that's what real family does. Not just love each other, but help each other grow." The final payment hit my account on a Tuesday morning. I stared at the notification, remembering the scared girl who'd fled with nothing but a suitcase and determination. Now sitting in my office at Stanford, I pulled out the contract that had changed everything. My phone buzzed, a message from Sydney. "Check the App Store. We're live." I opened the store and found it immediately. Fresh Start Finance, building better financial futures. Below the description was my sister's name as lead developer and mine as project advisor. 300 downloads already, Brady said, poking his head into my office. "Not bad for day one." "Did you see the dedication page?" He leaned over my shoulder as I tapped through the app. There it was, in simple text. "To my sister Mary, who taught me that real success comes from hard work, not shortcuts. Thank you for my second chance." The door opened again. Mum, carrying her volunteer coordinator badge and a stack of files. "2 more full scholarships approved," she announced. "The Second Chance Fund is making a real difference. You should see these students' faces when they realize they can actually afford college." "Speaking of the fund," Dad entered behind her, straightening his accountant's tie. "The quarterly reports are ready. We've helped 28 students so far." I looked at them, really looked at them. Mum's pride wasn't about appearances anymore, but about impact. Dad's confidence came from honest work, not risky schemes. And Sydney, she'd traded Instagram filters for computer filters, building something real. "Family therapy in 20 minutes, Sydney reminded everyone joining us. Dr. Roberts said it's time to discuss ending the formal sessions. "Are we ready for that?" Mum asked. "I think we are," I said, surprising myself. "Look at us. Actually talking. Actually listening." "Remember our first session?" Sydney laughed. "We could barely look at each other." "Because we were all carrying shame," Dad admitted. "Me for failing as a father, Sydney for what she'd done, your mother for enabling it. And me for being angry," I added, "for needing that contract to force you to change." "That contract saved us," Mum said quietly. "Not just financially. It made us face ourselves." Brady cleared his throat. "Speaking of facing things, Mary, should we tell them?" I nodded, standing up. "We're getting married. Small ceremony next month." "Oh, honey." Mom stepped forward, then hesitated. Would it be okay if I helped plan it?" The old fear flickered. Would she try to take over, make it about appearances? But I saw only genuine hope in her eyes. "Actually," I said, "I'd really like that." Sydney wiped her eyes. "Does this mean, are we really family again?" "We're something better," I replied. "We're a family that learned from our mistakes, that grew stronger from our breaks." Dr. Roberts welcomed us warmly when we arrived at her office. "I understand you want to discuss concluding our sessions." "The contract is fulfilled," I explained. "All the terms met, all the payments made." "And how do you feel about that?" I looked at my family, my real family, rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. "I feel like we don't need a contract anymore. They've proven who they are now." By keeping our promises, Dad said. By earning trust back, Mom added. By becoming people worthy of being called family, Sydney finished. Dr. Roberts smiled. Then I have one last assignment. Mary, what would you do if they needed help again? I'd give it, I said without hesitation. Not because of obligation, but because I trust who they've become. And we'd accept it with gratitude, Sydney said, but only after trying to solve things ourselves first. That, Dr. Roberts said, is how I know you're ready. Later at dinner, Brady raised his glass. To the strongest family I know. To second chances, Dad added. To doing the work, Mom said. To building something real, Sydney smiled. I looked at them, my once broken, now healing family, and raised my own glass. To growing together. As we ate, talked and laughed, I thought about that contract, safely filed away in my office. We'd needed it then, needed its structure and consequences to force us to face our truths, but we didn't need it anymore. What we had now was stronger than any legal document. It was trust, rebuilt from scratch, understanding, earned through effort, love, stronger for having been tested and proven. We had become the family we should have been all along, and that was worth more than any college fund. Ready to go home? Brady asked as we finished dinner. I looked at my family, really my family now, and smiled. I am home.
The text message from Maxwell lit up my phone. Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Made dinner reservations at Giorgio's. I stared at it, then back at my computer screen where the damning evidence glowed. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the transaction history. $5,000 last month, $8,000 the month before, regular transfers to an account I'd never seen before, all from our joint savings. I'm Joanna, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I was living the dream. Bank manager at 36, beautiful home in the suburbs, and what I believed was a rock-solid marriage of 12 years. Funny how a routine audit can shatter everything you thought you knew. Hey Joe, you okay? Marley poked her head into my office. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, I lied, quickly minimizing the screen. Just reviewing some accounts. She lingered in the doorway. The quarterly reports can wait. Come grab lunch with us. Thanks, but I need to finish this. After she left, I pulled up the account details again. The name on the receiving account jumped out at me. Bianca Smith. The profile photo showed a stunning younger woman with perfect makeup and carefully styled blonde hair. My stomach churned. I picked up my phone and called Diego. Hey sis, what's up? My brother's voice was cheerful. Can you meet me after work? I need your help with something. Everything okay? You sound weird. Just, please. Giorgio's at 7. The Italian place. Isn't that where Maxwell's taking you tonight? Change of plans. He won't be there. I hung up and opened my drawer, pulling out the stack of cards Maxwell had given me over the past year. Birthday, anniversary, Valentine's Day. Each one filled with flowery promises of eternal love and devotion. The same cards I'd treasured now made me sick. My phone buzzed again. Maxwell. Wearing that blue dress I love? I typed back, can't make dinner, emergency at work, rain check. His response came quickly. No problem, babe. Don't work too hard. Love you. Love you. Right. At 6:50, I walked into Giorgio's, spotting Diego at a corner table. He stood up when he saw me, his easy smile falling away as he got a better look at my face. Okay, spill it, he said as I sat down. What's wrong? I pulled out my tablet and showed him the transaction history. Look familiar? His eyes widened as he scrolled. Holy shit, Joe, is this what I think it is? If you think it's proof that my husband's been funneling money to his mistress through my own bank, then yes. That son of a... Keep your voice down, I hissed, though the restaurant was nearly empty. I need your help figuring out what to do next. Diego leaned back, running a hand through his hair. First thing tomorrow, you call Josue. He's the best divorce lawyer in the city. Divorce? The word felt strange in my mouth. What else are you thinking? Forgiveness? His tone was incredulous. I shook my head slowly, remembering all the late nights at the office, the business trips, the mysterious texts he'd hide from me. No, not forgiveness. Then what? I met my brother's eyes. I want him to feel what I'm feeling right now. I want him to know what it's like to have everything pulled out from under him. I want... Revenge, Diego finished. Is that terrible? He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. No, it's human, and in this case, it's justified. What do you need from me? Help me build a case, something he can't wiggle out of, something that will destroy him as thoroughly as he's destroyed us. Diego's phone lit up with a text. He glanced at it and his face hardened. Speak of the devil. Maxwell's asking if I want to grab a drink. Says you're working late. I felt a cold smile spread across my face. Tell him yes. Keep him busy. I need to make some copies of certain documents before he gets home. Joe, Diego said as I stood up, be careful. Don't let this consume you. I gathered my things, pausing to look at him. Too late for that. He made his choice. Now it's my turn. Walking out of Giorgio's, I felt something shift inside me. The shock and pain were still there, but something else was taking root, something colder and more calculated. Maxwell thought he was so clever, hiding his affair behind my own bank's walls. He had no idea that those same walls were about to come crashing down around him. My phone buzzed one more time. Miss you already. Sweet dreams. Beautiful. I deleted the message without responding. Let him think I was buried in work. Soon enough, he'd be buried in something much worse. You need to see this. I slid my laptop across Rebecca's kitchen counter the next morning. She squinted at the screen, coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. Holy fuck, she whispered, setting down her cup. How long has this been going on? The transfer started 8 months ago. I pulled up the security footage I'd retrieved from work, but watch this. The grainy video showed Maxwell and Bianca at my bank, laughing as they filled out paperwork. His hand rested on her lower back, intimate and familiar. The timestamp read, March 15th, our wedding anniversary. Rebecca's face flushed with anger. That absolute piece of... It gets better, I cut in, fast-forwarding. Look who helped them set up the account. Is that Trevor from your corporate accounts team? I nodded. My own employee. He must have known who Maxwell was, but he never said a word. Fire his ass. Already done. Called HR this morning about a breach of protocol. He's gone by end of day. Rebecca paced her kitchen, practically vibrating with rage. Okay, what's the plan? Please tell me you have a plan. That's why I'm here. I pulled out a notebook. I need your help mapping this out. Diego's gathering intel on their movements, but I need someone who knows the financial world. And who better than your best friend, the forensic accountant? Rebecca's smile was sharp. Let's destroy him. We spent the next hour plotting. Rebecca's expertise helped identify hidden patterns in Maxwell's spending: hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores. Each discovery felt like another knife in my back. My phone rang. Diego. You're on speaker, I said. Rebecca's here. Good. Listen, I followed them this morning. They're at the Meridian Hotel right now, room 412. Want me to go up there? No, Rebecca and I said simultaneously. We need evidence, not a scene, I explained. Can you get photos of them leaving? Already on it, but that's not why I called. Maxwell's planning another business trip next week. I overheard him on the phone at the gym. 3 days in Miami. I laughed bitterly. Miami, where Bianca's modeling agency just opened a new office. Exactly. Diego's voice hardened. What's our next move? Rebecca leaned forward. Joe, remember that case I worked last year, the embezzlement thing? We should... A key turned in Rebecca's front door. We froze. Becca, you home? Maxwell's voice called out. Shit, I hissed, scrambling to close my laptop. What's he doing here? Rebecca shoved my things into her bag and pushed it under the counter. In here, she called, then whispered to me. Play it cool. Maxwell walked in, all perfect smile and expensive cologne. Hey, Thought I might find you here, he said, kissing my cheek. You weren't answering your phone. Girls' morning, Rebecca said smoothly. No phones allowed. Ah, sacred rules, he laughed, helping himself to coffee. Listen, babe, about that Miami trip next week. Can't wait, I interrupted, forcing a smile. I already requested the time off. His face fell slightly. Oh, I thought, it's really just a quick business thing. Boring meetings and all that. But I'd love to see Miami, I pressed, watching him squirm. We could extend it into a long weekend. The thing is, he ran a hand through his hair, his tailwind lying. The schedule's pretty packed. I understand. I stood up, gathering my purse. Maybe next time. You're leaving? The relief in his voice was painful. Yoga class, Rebecca covered for me. We're already late. After quick goodbyes, I made it to my car before the tears came. Rebecca slid into the passenger seat, my laptop bag in her hands. I'm going to fucking end him, she said quietly. Did you see his face? I wiped my eyes angrily. He couldn't wait to get rid of me. Good. Rebecca pulled out her phone. Let him think he's winning. Meanwhile, I've got a friend at the Meridian who owes me a favor. Want to see their security footage? I started the car. Call Josue first. I need to know exactly how much evidence we need. Already texted him. He's free at 2. She squeezed my hand. We've got this, Joe. By the time we're done, Maxwell won't know what hit him. As we drove to the lawyer's office, I thought about Maxwell's kiss this morning. So casual, so practiced. How many times had he kissed me right after being with her? How many lies had I swallowed along with his false affection? Rebecca? Yeah? When this is over, when everything comes out, will I be okay? She turned to me, her face fierce with loyalty. You'll be better than okay. You'll be free. I nodded, gripping the steering wheel tighter. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding, but something stronger was taking its place. Something that felt like power. Maxwell thought he was so clever, juggling his double life. He had no idea I was about to turn his whole world upside down. And the best part? He'd never see it coming. Sunday family dinner had always been sacred in our house. Now, sitting across from Maxwell at my parents' dining table, every bite tasted like ash. Diego sat next to me, radiating tension, while our mother fussed over the roast chicken. Maxwell, honey, how's work? Mom asked, passing the potatoes. You've been traveling so much lately. Busy season, he replied smoothly. But it's paying off. We just landed a huge client in Miami. I caught Diego's knuckles whitening around his fork. Miami? Dad perked up. Beautiful this time of year. You should take Joanna with you. Maxwell coughed slightly. Oh, you know how these business trips are. Meetings all day, working dinners. Funny, Diego cut in. I bumped into your colleague Mike yesterday. He didn't mention any new Miami client. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Maxwell's smile flickered. Different department, he said quickly. Very hush-hush at this stage. Must be, Diego muttered. I kicked him under the table, but he ignored me. Speaking of work, Maxwell continued, clearly trying to change the subject. Joanna's been putting in some late hours herself. Barely saw her this week. Mum turned to me, concerned. You're not overworking yourself, are you, sweetie? Just busy with quarterly reviews, I lied, avoiding Maxwell's gaze. Actually, would anyone like more wine? I escaped to the kitchen, gripping the counter and taking deep breaths. The sound of chairs scraping told me someone had followed. Need help? Maxwell's voice made me jump. I've got it, I said, but he was already reaching past me for the wine bottle, his cologne overwhelming in the small space. You seem tense lately, he said softly. Everything okay? The audacity of his concern made me want to scream. Instead, I forced a smile. Just stressed about work. Maybe you should take some time off. After my Miami trip, we could... Maxwell, Mom called from the dining room. Phone for you. He squeezed my shoulder before leaving. Seconds later, Diego slipped in. He's planning something, my brother whispered urgently. I overheard him in the hallway earlier. He's meeting her tonight after dinner. My hands shook as I poured the wine. Where? The Meridian again. Room 412, same as last time. Diego pulled out his phone, showing me a text thread. My friend at the hotel confirmed the reservation. Did you get the photos from last time? Better, he grinned. Got video. And guess what else? Found out Bianca's been bragging to her friends about her sugar daddy. She's not as discreet as Maxwell thinks. The wine bottle clinked against the glass as my hand trembled harder. I can't do this anymore, Diego. Sitting here, playing happy families while he... Then don't. Diego gripped my shoulders. We have enough evidence. Let's end this now. Not yet. I shook my head. Josue says we need more financial records, and I want him to feel completely safe before I pull the rug out. You're stronger than I would be, Diego muttered. I want to punch his smug face every time he opens his mouth. Soon, I promised. Very soon. We returned to the dining room, where Maxwell was just hanging up his phone. Everything okay? I asked innocently. Oh yeah, just work. He checked his watch. Actually, I might need to head in for a bit. Emergency client situation. Mum frowned. On a Sunday night? Nature of the business, he said apologetically. Joe, don't wait up, okay? This might take a while. I nodded, watching him kiss our mother's cheek goodbye. As soon as the front door closed, Diego pulled out his phone again. Following him? I asked quietly. You know it. He stood up. Mum, Dad, sorry, but I've got plans too. After they left, I helped clean up, my mind racing. Each dish I washed felt like another moment ticking down to something inevitable. Joanna, Mom touched my arm. What's really going on? I turned to her, seeing the worry in her eyes. For a moment, I wanted to tell her everything, about the money, the affair, my plans for revenge. Instead, I hugged her tightly. I'm okay, Mom. Just tired. My phone buzzed with a text from Diego. He's here, with her. Want me to send pics? I replied, no, save them for later. Another buzz, this time from Maxwell. Meeting running late. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at the message, remembering all the other Sunday nights he'd missed, all the emergencies and client meetings that had really been rendezvous with Bianca. Each lie now felt like another piece of ammunition in my growing arsenal. Soon, I promised myself. Soon he'd learn that karma doesn't just knock, it kicks down doors. And I was going to be holding the battering ram. The morning light streamed through my office window as Marley laid out the documents on my desk. You sure about this? She asked, tapping the stack of papers. Once we submit these to compliance, there's no going back. I'm sure. I signed the last form with a steady hand. The money laundering angle is solid. Rock solid. The way he structured those transfers. She shook her head. Textbook case of trying to hide the source. Plus, using your bank, that's just stupid. My phone lit up with Joshua's name. Speaking of stupid decisions, Joanna, his voice was clipped, professional. We need to meet. Now. Something's come up. 20 minutes later, I sat in his office, staring at photos spread across his desk. They showed Maxwell and Bianca at various locations. Restaurants, hotels, even one at my parents' country club. Your brother's been busy, Joshua said, but that's not why I called. Look at this one. The photo showed Bianca entering a building I recognized, my bank's corporate headquarters. When was this taken? 3 days ago. She's applying for a job there. My blood ran cold. What? That's not all. He slid over a document. She's using Maxwell as a reference, claims she has extensive experience with corporate banking. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I bet she does. This could work in our favor. Josue leaned forward. If she gets the job, a knock interrupted him. His secretary poked her head in. Ms. Douglas, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. I stepped into the reception area and froze. Bianca stood there, perfect makeup, designer outfit, looking exactly like her profile picture. We need to talk, she said simply. No, we don't. I turned to leave. It's about the job application. Her voice stopped me. And about Maxwell. You deserve to know the truth. 5 minutes later, we sat in a coffee shop across the street. Bianca stirred her latte, perfectly manicured nails clicking against the spoon. I knew who you were from the start, she said. Maxwell told me you were separated. Convenient lie. I believed him at first. Then I saw your family photos on his phone. Recent ones. She met my eyes. He's been playing both of us. I kept my face neutral. Why are you telling me this? Because he promised to leave you. Promised to help with my career. Her laugh was harsh. Instead, he's been stringing me along while bleeding my savings dry. That made me sit up. What? She pulled out her phone, showing me bank statements. Large transfers going out of her account. To Maxwell. Son of a bitch, I whispered. He said it was for investment opportunities. Special deals through his firm. She wiped away a tear, careful not to smudge her mascara. I'm not the only one. There are others. My phone buzzed. A text from Marley. Compliance approved, ready when you are. Why apply at my bank? I asked Bianca. Honestly? To force his hand, make him choose. She shrugged. Stupid, right? Very. I stood up. Word of advice. Withdraw your application. Things are about to get messy at that bank. Back at the office, Marley was waiting with Rebecca. You'll never believe who I just met, I said. Spill it, Rebecca demanded. As I recounted the conversation, their expressions shifted from shock to anger to something like grim satisfaction. So he's not just a cheater, Marley said slowly. He's running a scam. Rebecca was already typing on her laptop. If what she said about other women is true, find them, I said, all of them. My phone buzzed again. Maxwell. Miss you, can't wait for Miami next week. About that trip, Marley said. Our team found something interesting in his expense reports. She pulled up a document showing multiple airline bookings, all for the same dates, different destinations. He's not going to Miami, Rebecca realized. That's just what he told you. No, I said, reading the details. He's going to Vegas, with her. The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd expected. Maxwell wasn't just having an affair. He was running a complex financial scheme, using both the bank and his mistresses as unwitting accomplices. Joshua needs to see this, Rebecca said, gathering the papers. All of it. I nodded, a cold clarity settling over me. Set up the meeting. It's time. As they left my office, I looked at the photo of Maxwell and me on my desk. Our last anniversary, both of us smiling. I turned it face down. My phone buzzed one final time. Packed my lucky tie for Miami, the blue one you gave me. I typed back, perfect. Everything's going exactly as planned. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't lying. 3 more women have come forward, Rebecca announced, dropping a thick folder on my desk. All with the same story. Investment opportunities, romance, then suddenly their money vanishes. I flipped through the statements, each one more damning than the last. How much total? Close to $500,000. She collapsed into the chair across from me. And that's just what we know about. My office door opened and Marley rushed in. We've got a problem. Bianca's downstairs. She's demanding to see you. What? Why? She's hysterical. Says Maxwell cleaned out their joint account this morning. I grabbed my purse. Where is she? We found Bianca in the bank's lobby, mascara streaking down her face. Several customers were staring. My money, she choked out when she saw me. All of it, gone. I led her to a private conference room, Rebecca and Marley following. Once the door closed, Bianca collapsed into tears. He said it was for our future, she sobbed. A down payment on our new life together. I trusted him. How much? Rebecca asked quietly. 200,000. Bianca wiped her eyes. My entire savings, plus what I borrowed from my parents. I exchanged looks with Rebecca. This changed everything. Show me the transfer details, I said. Bianca pulled up her banking app. The transaction had happened at 9:43 a.m., right when Maxwell was supposedly in a board meeting. "There's more," she hiccuped. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent. "Does he know?" Marley asked. Bianca shook her head. "I was going to tell him in Vegas next week. We were supposed to—" She broke down again. My phone buzzed. Diego. "Maxwell just bought a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires. Tomorrow morning." The bastard was planning to run. "Bianca," I said carefully, "we need your help." "Why would I help you?" she snapped. "You're his wife." "Because right now I'm your only chance at getting your money back." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" I laid out what we knew. The other women, the financial schemes, the fake business trips. With each detail, her face grew paler. "Son of a bitch," she whispered. "I'm such an idiot." "We all were," I said. "But now we can stop him." My phone rang. Maxwell. "Put it on speaker," Rebecca mouthed. "Hey, babe." His voice was cheerful. "Just checking about dinner tonight. Giorgio's at 7. I met Bianca's eyes. She nodded slightly. "Actually," I said, "I need to work late. Rain check?" "Of course, beautiful. Don't work too hard." He paused. "Love you." The call ended. Bianca's hands were shaking. "He's taking me to dinner tonight," she said. "Same restaurant, 8 o'clock. Marley leaned forward. "We can use this." But I was already shaking my head. "No, it's too risky. If he suspects anything—" "He won't," Bianca interrupted. "Trust me, I can play my part. One last dinner with the man who stole my future." Her laugh was bitter. "I think I can manage that." Rebecca pulled out her laptop. "If we time this right, we can freeze his accounts before he boards that plane." "You'd do that?" Bianca asked. "Help me." "I'm helping all of us," I said. "But first, we need to call Josué." As Rebecca made the call, Marley touched my arm. "You okay with this? Working with her?" I watched Bianca staring at her phone, probably at photos of her and Maxwell, just like I'd done countless times. "The enemy of my enemy," I said quietly. My phone buzzed again. Maxwell. "Packed for Miami, can't wait to close this deal." I showed the message to Bianca. Her face hardened. "Bastard told me it was Vegas," she said. "Said he was finally leaving you. He's not going to Miami or Vegas," I told her. "He's running to Argentina, with everyone's money." She stood up suddenly. "I'll wear the red dress tonight. It's his favorite." "Bianca," I called as she reached the door. "Why did you really come here today?" She turned, one hand unconsciously touching her stomach. "Because when I found out about the baby, I realized something. This isn't about me or you anymore. It's about justice." After she left, Rebecca looked at me. "Can we trust her?" I thought about Maxwell's patterns, how he chose strong, successful women and turned their strengths into vulnerabilities. "We don't have to trust her," I said. "We just have to trust that she wants revenge as much as we do." My phone lit up one last time. A message from Josué. "Everything's ready, just say the word." I typed back 2 words. "Do it." The endgame was starting, and Maxwell had no idea he was about to have dinner with 2 women he'd betrayed, one carrying his child, the other carrying enough evidence to destroy him completely. "His laptop is still connected to our home Wi-Fi," I told Rebecca as we huddled over her computer. "Can you get in?" "Already done." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "God, he's not even using a password manager." Amateur. Email after email populated the screen. Each one revealed another layer of deception. More women, more promises, more money transfers. "Look at this one," Rebecca pointed. "He's been corresponding with a real estate agent in Buenos Aires for months." My phone buzzed. "Bianca, at Giorgio's. He's not here yet." "Everything set?" I asked Rebecca. She nodded, showing me her tablet where 6 different security camera feeds from Giorgio's displayed. "Diego's got eyes on all exits. Joshué's team is standing by." "And the money?" "Can't touch it until morning when the banks open, but it's flagged. The moment he tries to transfer anything significant, we'll know." My phone buzzed again. Maxwell. "Working late again? Miss you?" I ignored it, focusing on the security feeds. At 8:02, Maxwell walked into Giorgio's, heading straight for the bar. He looked confident, relaxed, a man without a care in the world. "There's our boy," Rebecca muttered, looking pretty smug for someone about to lose everything. Bianca appeared on another camera, wearing the red dress she'd mentioned. Maxwell's face lit up when he saw her. "Audio's live," Rebecca said, adjusting her headphones. "Want to hear?" I shook my head. "Just tell me if anything important happens." My phone rang. Diego. "You seeing this?" he asked. "Because I've got a clear shot of them from the parking lot, and they look pretty cozy." "Stay focused," I reminded him. "We need to know the moment he leaves." Rebecca suddenly grabbed my arm. "Joe, listen to this." She unplugged her headphones, and Maxwell's voice filled the room. "Just need you to sign these papers. For the investment, remember? More paperwork." Bianca's voice was perfectly pitched, curious but trusting. "Last batch, I promise. Once this goes through." Rebecca muted it. "He's trying to get her to sign transfer documents. Right now." I grabbed my phone, typing quickly. "Don't sign anything." On screen, Bianca checked her phone, then smiled at Maxwell. "Actually, can we order first? I'm starving." His face flickered with annoyance, but he waved over a waiter. "Smart girl," Rebecca murmured. My phone lit up again. "Marley. Bank alert set. Any unusual activity will trigger automatic freezes." I watched as Maxwell ordered wine, playing the perfect gentleman. How many times had he done this? How many women had sat across from him, believing they were special? "Hold up," Rebecca said suddenly. "New email coming in. Holy shit." "What?" "It's from his firm's HR department. They're launching an internal investigation into missing client funds." I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "Anonymous tip?" "Very anonymous," she confirmed, "and very detailed." On screen, Maxwell checked his phone. His expression changed instantly, that smooth confidence cracking just slightly. "He's seen it," Rebecca narrated. "Now he's—" "Yep, pulling up his banking app." "Time to rattle his cage?" I asked. "Do it." I picked up my phone and typed, "Hey babe, can we talk? Found some strange transactions in our account." The effect was immediate. On screen, Maxwell nearly knocked over his wine glass. "Incoming call," Rebecca warned. My phone lit up with Maxwell's name. I let it ring. "He's getting up," Rebecca reported, making excuses to Bianca, heading to the bathroom. I answered his second call. "Hey." His voice was too bright. "Sorry I missed you earlier. What's up?" "Oh, just some weird bank stuff," I said casually. "Actually, could you stop by the bank tomorrow? They need both of us to verify some transfers." "Tomorrow?" His voice cracked slightly. "I've got that Miami trip, remember?" "Right, Miami." I paused. "Or is it Vegas?" The silence was deafening. "What are you talking about?" he finally managed. "Doesn't matter. Have a good dinner, Maxwell. Give Bianca my best." I hung up. On screen, Maxwell emerged from the bathroom, face pale. He rushed back to the table, grabbing his briefcase. "He's running," Diego's voice came through my phone. "Want me to follow?" "No need." I watched Maxwell hurry toward the exit. "We know where he's going." Rebecca was already typing. "Alert sent to airport security. His passport's been flagged." My phone buzzed one last time. Bianca. "He's gone. Left the papers behind. What now?" I looked at Rebecca, who nodded. "Now," I typed back, "we wait. By this time tomorrow, Maxwell's entire world will collapse. And we'll all have front row seats." On screen, Maxwell's car peeled out of the parking lot. He was probably heading home to pack, not knowing that every account was frozen, every escape route blocked. "Should we head over?" Rebecca asked. I shook my head, watching his car disappear from view. "Let him sweat tonight. Tomorrow's soon enough for the grand finale. After all, revenge, like karma, is best served with perfect timing." The restaurant buzzed with Friday night energy as I sat across from Maxwell at our usual table. He'd been checking his phone every 30 seconds, barely touching his wine. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. "You seem distracted." "Fine," he said quickly. "Just work stuff." "Must be stressful, planning that Miami trip." His eyes darted to mine, then away. "About that, or is it Vegas?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. I get confused. So many trips lately. "Joanna, here's a good one." I turned the screen toward him. "You and Bianca at the Meridian, room 412. Very cozy." The color drained from his face. "I can explain." "Can you explain this too?" I slid a folder across the table. "Bank statements, transfer records, emails to your real estate agent in Buenos Aires." His hand shook as he opened the folder. "How did you— I'm a bank manager, Maxwell. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $500,000 moving through my own bank?" He leaned forward, voice low. "Listen, this isn't what it looks like. Save it." I held up my hand. "Bianca told me everything. So did the others." "Others?" "Amanda from accounting, Sarah from your gym, Maria from the country club." I watched each name hit him like a physical blow. They all had the same story: investment opportunities, romance, missing money. He grabbed his phone, probably trying to check his accounts. I smiled. "Don't bother. Everything's frozen." "You can't do that," he hissed. "I already did. The FBI is very interested in your investment schemes, by the way." The waiter approached. I waved him away. "This is insane," Maxwell said. "I'm your husband." "Not for long." I pulled out another folder. "Divorce papers. And look, I even used your lucky blue pen, the one you left at Bianca's last week." His face contorted. "You vindictive by—" "Careful," I cut him off. "You're being recorded. Actually, you have been for weeks. The Meridian has excellent security cameras." As if on cue, Bianca walked in. Maxwell's eyes widened as she approached our table. "Perfect timing," I said. "Join us." She sat down, placing her own folder on the table. "The investment paperwork you wanted me to sign last night? I had my lawyer look it over." Maxwell started to stand. Diego appeared behind him, hand firm on his shoulder. "Sit down, brother-in-law. We're not done." "This is harassment," Maxwell sputtered. "No," I corrected him. "This is karma." Rebecca emerged from another table, laptop open. "Should I show him the spreadsheets? The ones tracking every dollar he stole?" Maxwell's face was ashen. "I can fix this. Give me time." "Time?" Bianca's laugh was harsh. "Like the time you gave me to recover my life savings? Or the time you spent planning your escape to Argentina," I added. "Speaking of which," Diego checked his watch. "Your flight left 10 minutes ago. Shame you missed it." Maxwell slumped in his chair. "What do you want?" I opened the divorce papers. "Sign these. Then we'll discuss repayment plans with everyone you've scammed. And if I refuse?" "Then I press charges," I said simply. "The FBI has everything they need. Your choice." His hand trembled as he took the pen. "You've ruined me." "No, Maxwell, you did that all by yourself." As he signed, I thought about all the nights I'd spent crying, all the times I doubted myself. Now, watching him crumble, I felt nothing but relief. "One more thing," Bianca said as he finished signing. "I'm pregnant." The pen clattered to the table. "Congratulations," I told him. "I'm sure the child support calculations will be interesting." Diego pulled Maxwell up. "The FBI agents outside would like a word." As they led him away, Rebecca squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I watched my soon-to-be ex-husband being escorted out, his perfect life in shambles. Better than okay. Bianca stood to leave, then paused. "I'm sorry, for everything." "Don't be. We were both deceived." After she left, Rebecca closed her laptop. "Want to get out of here?" I looked around the restaurant, at our special table, at the memories of anniversaries and celebrations, all tainted now by lies. "Actually," I said, picking up Maxwell's untouched wine glass, "I think I'll finish this first. Seems a shame to waste $100 bottle of wine." To karma, Rebecca raised her glass. To karma, I agreed, and to women who don't stay victims. Through the window, I could see Maxwell talking to federal agents, gesturing frantically. His lucky blue tie was crooked. I took another sip of wine, savoring the moment. Sometimes revenge doesn't taste cold at all. Sometimes it tastes like victory, with notes of justice and a finish of pure satisfaction. The waves crashed against the shore as Rebecca and I walked along the beach, our shoes dangling from our hands. The morning sun warmed my face as I checked my phone, another news alert about Maxwell's case. "Stop torturing yourself," Rebecca said, snatching my phone. "He pleaded guilty. It's done." "I know, it's just—" I wiggled my now bare ring finger. "Hard to believe it's really over." "Over? Girl, your life is just beginning." She grinned. "Speaking of which, guess who called me yesterday?" "Who?" "Bianca. She had her first ultrasound. It's a girl." I stopped walking. "How's she doing?" "Better. The victim restitution fund came through. She's got her savings back, plus interest." Rebecca kicked at the surf. "She asked about you, actually." "What did you tell her?" "That you're too busy being a badass CEO to worry about the past." I smiled, thinking about my recent promotion. The board had been impressed with how I'd handled the fraud detection. Who knew exposing your husband's criminal enterprise could be such a career boost? My phone buzzed in Rebecca's hand. She checked it, then whistled. Diego's text. "Maxwell's cellmate is a former investment banker he scammed. Karma keeps on giving." "Delete it," I said. "I don't need updates anymore." "You sure? This is prime revenge material." "I'm sure." I took my phone back, dropping it into my beach bag. The best revenge is living well, right? Speaking of living well, Rebecca wiggled her eyebrows. "That new district attorney's been asking about you." "Stop." "What? He's cute, and he helped put Maxwell away." "I'm not ready." "Fair enough." She linked her arm through mine. "But when you are, promise you'll let me vet him. I've gotten pretty good at background checks." We laughed, remembering the night spent digging through Maxwell's digital life. "Oh," Rebecca suddenly pulled me toward a beach cafe. "Coffee break. I have news." Inside, over steaming lattes, she slid a document across the table. "What's this?" "Remember those other women Maxwell scammed? They want to start a support group, help other fraud victims. They need someone to manage the foundation's finances." I stared at her. "You're not serious." "Why not? You're literally the perfect person for this. Who better to help fraud victims than someone who took down one of the biggest scammers in the city?" Before I could respond, my phone rang. Marley. "Turn on the news," she said when I answered. "Right now." The cafe's TV was already showing it. Maxwell being led into court for sentencing, head down, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his lucky blue tie. "Should we watch?" Rebecca asked softly. I shook my head. "I don't need to see it." "You sure? This is your moment of triumph." "No," I said, looking at the foundation proposal. "This is." My phone buzzed again. A text from Bianca. "Starting a single mother's support group. Could use your financial expertise. No pressure." Rebecca read over my shoulder. "Look at us, turning lemons into lemonade." More like turning betrayal into purpose. The news showed Maxwell's face one more time before cutting away. I barely recognized him, the confident mask gone, replaced by the reality of his choices. "You know what I realized?" I said, stirring my coffee. "He didn't just steal money. He stole confidence, trust, self-worth. That's what we need to help people rebuild." "So you'll do it? Help with the foundation?" I picked up the proposal. "On one condition." "Name it. We make it bigger than Maxwell. Bigger than revenge. Something that actually changes lives." Rebecca's smile was brilliant. Now that sounds like the Joanna I know. My phone lit up with another message. From Mom. "Proud of you, sweetheart. Your father says the beach house is yours whenever you need it." I looked out at the ocean, remembering all the times I'd felt like I was drowning in Maxwell's lies. Now the water looked different. Cleansing, full of possibility. "Ready to head back?" Rebecca asked. Not yet. I pulled out a pen, starting to make notes on the proposal. I've got some ideas to write down first. She settled back with her coffee, grinning. That's my girl. The waves kept rolling in, steady and strong. Like karma, like justice, like women supporting women. Maxwell had tried to build his life on lies, but we'd built something better on the truth. And that was the real victory. Not the conviction, not the restitution, but this. Turning pain into purpose, betrayal into brotherhood, and revenge into redemption. I took another sip of coffee, already planning the Foundation's first meeting. Sometimes the best endings aren't endings at all. They're beginnings in disguise.
The day my family chose my sister's lies over my truth started like any other Thursday. I stood in my childhood home's living room, surrounded by faces I'd known all my life, watching them transform from familiar to foreign in the span of minutes. $20,000, Lana. How could you? My mother's voice cracked as she clutched a stack of papers Sawyer had handed her moments before. Your own parents' retirement fund? I'm Lana, and until that moment I thought I knew exactly who I was in my family. The responsible one, the daughter who'd never caused a moment's worry. Now I stood accused of theft, watching my carefully built world crumble. Mom, Dad, please. Those documents are fake. I would never... My voice caught as Sawyer stepped between us, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors. I found the transfers myself, Sawyer interrupted, her voice dripping with rehearsed concern. All traced back to Lana's account. I didn't want to believe it either, but... She placed a manicured hand on Mom's shoulder, the perfect picture of a concerned daughter. Dad paced near the fireplace, his face red with anger. We trusted you with access to help manage our accounts when your mother got sick last year. Was that your plan all along? No! I stepped forward, reaching for the papers. Let me see those documents. Something's wrong here. Sawyer's lying. Sawyer pulled them away. I've already shown you the proof. Stop trying to deflect. Robert, Mom turned to Dad, tears streaming down her face. What do we do? I watched my father's expression harden, the same expression he'd worn when he caught neighborhood kids vandalizing his car years ago. But this time, it was directed at me. Pack your things, Lana. You're no longer welcome in this house. Dad, please. Don't. He held up his hand. The evidence is clear. You stole from us, betrayed our trust. I won't have a thief under my roof. I didn't do this. I spun toward my sister. Sawyer, tell them the truth. Whatever game you're playing, it's gone too far. Sawyer's eyes met mine, cold and triumphant. For a split second, her mask slipped, and I saw something I'd never noticed before, a calculated hatred that made my blood run cold. Security cameras, I blurted out. Check the bank's security footage. I haven't been to that branch in months. The transfers were done online, Sawyer countered smoothly. From your IP address. My mother sobbed harder. Just go, Lana, please, just go. Mom. I reached for her, but she turned away. You have 30 minutes to pack essentials, Dad said. We'll have the rest of your things sent to wherever you end up. I stood frozen, my world tilting on its axis. The family photos on the walls seemed to mock me. Smiling faces from happier times, Sawyer and me at her son Bailey's 16th birthday just last year, family vacations, Christmas mornings. This isn't over, I said quietly, my shock giving way to determination. The truth will come out. The truth already has, Sawyer replied, but I caught the slight tremor in her voice. Upstairs, I threw clothes into a suitcase with shaking hands. My phone buzzed. A text from Corey, my best friend since college. You okay? You're late for coffee. I typed back quickly. Everything's gone wrong. Need a place to stay. His response was immediate. My door's open. Always. Back downstairs, my parents wouldn't look at me. Sawyer stood by the door playing her part perfectly. The grieving sister, disappointed but righteous. When you realize what you've done, Dad said, his voice heavy. When you're ready to confess and make amends, maybe we can talk. Until then, I'll prove it wasn't me. I said, gripping my suitcase handle. And when I do, I hope you remember this moment. Remember how easily you believed the worst of me. I walked out of my childhood home, the door closing behind me with devastating finality. In my car, I allowed myself exactly 1 minute to break down, hands gripping the steering wheel as tears blurred my vision. Then I wiped my eyes, started the engine, and pulled out my phone to call Duncan, our family's longtime lawyer and friend. If Sawyer wanted to play this game, fine. But she'd forgotten something crucial about her little sister. I'd always been better at strategy than she was. Duncan, it's Lana. I need your help. I pulled onto the street, watching my parents' house disappear in the rearview mirror. Sawyer's set me up, and I'm going to need everything you can find on financial fraud and digital forensics. The line was quiet for a moment before Duncan spoke. Come to my office. We'll figure this out. I ended the call, my hands steady now. Sawyer might have won this battle, but she'd just started a war she wasn't prepared to fight. And I intended to win. Corey's apartment became my war room. 3 days after being kicked out, we sat surrounded by papers, laptops, and empty coffee cups, piecing together the puzzle of my sister's betrayal. Look at this, Corey said, turning his laptop screen toward me. The timestamps on these bank transfers don't match your work schedule. You were literally teaching a yoga class when this one happened. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Can we prove that? The gym's check-in system records instructor arrivals. I already called your manager. She's pulling the logs. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Corey checked his security camera feed and grinned. Duncan's here. Duncan entered carrying a thick manila envelope and his signature briefcase. His tie was loosened, a rare sight for the usually impeccable lawyer. You look like hell, he said, studying my face. Thanks. You should see the other guy. I attempted a smile. Please tell me you found something. He spread documents across Corey's coffee table. Your sister's been busy. These are records of multiple accounts opened in various names, all connected to her somehow. The money trail is complicated, but it's there if you know where to look. How did you get these? Corey asked. Let's just say I still have friends at the bank. Duncan pointed to a series of transactions. See this pattern? Money moves from your parents' account to a shell account, then gets redistributed to these other accounts. The transfer that supposedly proves your guilt? It's part of a larger scheme. My phone buzzed, a text from Bailey, Sawyer's son. Mum's acting weird. Grandma and Grandpa just gave her power of attorney over everything. Shit. I showed them the message. She's moving faster than we thought. Power of attorney? Duncan straightened his tie. That changes things. We need to move quickly before she can do real damage. Corey opened another browser tab. Wait, look at this. Sawyer's LinkedIn shows she worked for a tech security firm 3 years ago. Could explain how she managed to spoof your IP address. Can we prove that's what she did? I asked. With the right expert, maybe. Duncan pulled out his phone. I know someone who specializes in digital forensics. But Lana, this won't be cheap. I don't care about the cost. I care about... My voice caught as another text came through, this time from Mom. Please stop asking people to investigate us. You're only making things worse. Corey read over my shoulder and swore softly. Sawyer's got them completely convinced. She always was good at manipulation, I said, remembering childhood incidents I'd dismissed at the time. Remember when she convinced our parents I'd broken Dad's vintage record player? I was grounded for a month. This is a bit bigger than a record player, Duncan noted dryly. My phone rang. Bailey again. I put it on speaker. Aunt Lana, Mum's at the bank with Grandma and Grandpa right now. I heard her talking about moving their investments around. Bailey, can you get any details? Account numbers? Anything? I took pictures of some papers she left in her home office. Sending them now. Duncan leaned forward. Bailey, be careful. Don't let her catch you helping us. I know, but this isn't right. What she's doing to you. To them. Bailey's voice cracked. I have to go. She's coming back. The call ended as photos started coming through. Duncan examined them closely. This is good, he said. Really good. These documents show intent to defraud. See these signature dates? They don't match the notary stamps. Will it be enough? I asked. Not yet, but it's a start. Duncan gathered his papers. I'm meeting my digital forensics contact in an hour. Corey, keep digging into those bank records. Lana, you need to stay visible. Maintain your routine. Don't give Sawyer any ammunition to paint you as unstable or desperate. I nodded, standing to walk him out. At the door, he paused. One more thing. Your sister's going to realize soon that we're investigating. When she does, she'll probably try to contact you directly. Record everything. After he left, Corey brought me fresh coffee. You okay? No. I stared into the cup. My parents think I'm a thief. My sister's stealing their retirement, and my teenage nephew is playing spy. But I'm going to fix this. We're going to fix this, he corrected. Speaking of which, look what I just found. He showed me his screen, an old local news article about a fraud case at Sawyer's former workplace. She wasn't named, but the dates matched her employment there. Send that to Duncan, I said, feeling the first real spark of hope in days. And Corey, thank you for everything. He bumped my shoulder with his. That's what friends are for. Now let's go through these bank statements again. There's got to be something we missed. I settled back into research mode, my determination growing stronger. Sawyer might have won the first round, but the game was far from over. Duncan's office felt different at night. The usual bustle of legal assistants and ringing phones was replaced by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the glow of desk lamps. I sat across from Marcus, the digital forensics expert Duncan had brought in, watching him scroll through lines of code. Your sister's good, Marcus said, adjusting his glasses, but not as good as she thinks. See these access logs? She used a VPN to mask her location, but there's always a digital footprint. Duncan leaned over Marcus's shoulder. Can you prove it was her? Better. Marcus typed rapidly. I can prove it wasn't Lana. The IP spoofing software she used left traces. Amateur mistake, really. My phone lit up with a text from Bailey. Mum's freaking out. She just got a call from the bank about suspicious activity. Looks like someone's feeling the heat, Duncan said, reading the message. Marcus, how fast can you get us a preliminary report? Give me till morning. But you'll want to see this now. He pulled up a series of emails. These were recovered from a cloud backup, correspondence between your sister and someone at her old tech firm discussing how to redirect electronic transfers. The office door opened and Corey rushed in, waving a folder. You need to see this. Remember that fraud case we found? I dug deeper. Sawyer wasn't just working there, she was under investigation. Why wasn't she charged? I asked. Lack of evidence, but look at the investigating officer's notes. He spread papers across Duncan's desk. The method matches what she's doing now. My phone buzzed again. Mom's number. My hand shook as I answered. Lana? Her voice sounded uncertain, different from the anger of days ago. I got an alert from the bank, something about unauthorized access to our accounts. Mom, please listen to me. Sawyer says you're trying to hack our accounts now. Her voice hardened. Why can't you just leave us alone? Put her on speaker, Duncan whispered. I did. Mom, I'm with our lawyer right now. We have proof that Sawyer... Lawyer? You got a lawyer? She sounded hurt. Are you planning to sue us? Mrs. Taylor, Duncan cut in smoothly. I'm trying to protect your interests. There are serious irregularities with your accounts that have nothing to do with Lana. Silence on the line. Then, I need to go. Mom, wait. But she'd already hung up. That's actually good, Duncan said. She called you, not Sawyer. She's having doubts. Marcus whistled from his computer. Found something big. Money transfers to an offshore account started 3 months ago. Small amounts at first, then larger. All traced back to Sawyer's home IP address. My phone lit up again. Bailey. Grandma just called Mom. Mum's locked herself in her office. I can hear her shredding papers. Time to move, Duncan said, grabbing his coat. Marcus, email me everything you have. Corey, get those bank records to my office. Lana, you're coming with me. Where? Your parents' house. Sawyer's panicking, which means she's likely to make mistakes. We need to be there when she does. The drive was tense. Duncan reviewed our evidence on his phone while I watched the familiar streets pass by. As we turned onto my parents' street, I saw multiple cars in the driveway. "That's Sawyer's car," I said, "and Bailey's." Duncan parked across the street. "Remember, stay calm. Let me do the talking." We walked to the door, but before we could knock, it flew open. Bailey stood there, pale and shaking. "You need to come quick," he said. "Mum's trying to get Grandma and Grandpa to sign something." We followed him inside. In the living room, Sawyer stood over our parents with a document, her usual composure cracking. "Just sign it," she was saying. "It's to protect your assets from Lana's lawyers." "Step away from them, Sawyer," Duncan's voice cut through the tension. "Any documents signed under duress won't hold up in court." Sawyer spun around, her face twisting when she saw me. "What are you doing here? Mom, Dad, I told you she'd try something like this." "Actually," Duncan held up his phone, "we're here about the offshore accounts you've been funneling money into. Want to explain those?" The colour drained from Sawyer's face. Dad snatched the papers from her hand, reading them with growing horror. "This isn't a protection document," he said slowly. "This is a transfer of all our assets to you." "Dad, I can explain." "Save it for the forensic accountants," Duncan interrupted. "They'll be very interested in your creative banking practices." Mum looked between us, tears in her eyes. "Sawyer, what have you done?" I stepped forward, placing the evidence folder on the coffee table. "Everything you need to know is in here. Bank records, email trails, all of it." Sawyer's mask finally cracked completely. "You don't understand. I had debts." "Get out!" Dad's voice was quiet but firm. "Now." As Sawyer fled upstairs, Mum reached for my hand. "Lana, I'm so—" "Not yet," I said gently. "First, we need to protect what's left of your retirement. Then we can talk about everything else." The sound of Sawyer's footsteps on the stairs echoed through the house as the real work of rebuilding began. The next morning found us all gathered in Duncan's conference room. Mum and Dad sat close together, looking exhausted, while Bailey slumped in a chair near the window. Corey worked quietly on his laptop, organising the growing mountain of evidence against Sawyer. "The good news," Duncan said, spreading documents across the table, "is that we've frozen the accounts before more damage could be done. The bad news is the extent of what we've uncovered." "How bad?" Dad's voice was hoarse. Duncan pointed to a spreadsheet. "Over the past year, Sawyer diverted approximately $200,000 to various accounts. We've traced most of it, but some funds are still unaccounted for." Mum's hand flew to her mouth. "Our retirement. We'll recover what we can," Duncan assured her. "The offshore accounts have been flagged and—" The door burst open. Sawyer stormed in, her designer outfit wrinkled, her eyes wild. "You had no right to freeze those accounts." "Those weren't your accounts to empty," I shot back, standing. "Security's on their way," Corey murmured, reaching for his phone. "Bailey," Sawyer turned to her son. "Let's go, now." Bailey didn't move. "No, Mom. I'm staying." "You ungrateful little—" She stepped toward him, but Dad moved between them. "That's enough, Sawyer. Sit down or leave. Those are your options." She laughed, a harsh sound. "Options? Like the options you gave Lana when I convinced you she was stealing? You were so quick to believe the worst about her. Why not me?" "Because we have proof," Duncan said calmly, holding up a USB drive. "Including some interesting emails about your previous employer's fraud case, the one you were never charged for." Sawyer's face went pale. "You can't prove anything." "Actually," Corey turned his laptop around, "we can. Your IP address, your email trails, your bank records. Want to see the transaction from last Tuesday? The one you made from your favorite coffee shop's Wi-Fi?" "I needed that money," Sawyer's composure cracked. "Do you have any idea what it's like watching perfect little Lana get all the praise? The golden child who could do no wrong?" "I worked for everything I have," I said quietly. "While you were busy resenting me, I was building a life." "A life?" she sneered. "Teaching yoga and living in a tiny apartment. I have appearances to maintain." "Appearances?" Mum's voice shook. "You stole our retirement for appearances?" Security arrived at the door. Duncan nodded to them. Ms. Taylor needs to leave. This isn't over, Sawyer spat as the guards approached. Actually, it is. Duncan held up another document. The police have been notified. They'll want to speak with you about the fraud charges. As security escorted her out, Bailey broke down. I moved to sit beside him, putting an arm around his shoulders. I'm so sorry, he sobbed. I should have said something sooner. The shopping sprees, the new car, the cash withdrawals, I knew something was wrong. You did say something, I reminded him gently, when it mattered most. Corey cleared his throat. There's something else you should see. He pulled up a series of photos on his laptop. These were taken last month at various casinos. Sawyer's been gambling heavily. Mom started crying softly. Dad took her hand, his face ashen. How did we not see this? Because she didn't want you to, Duncan said. She crafted her deception carefully, played on your trust, and manipulated your emotions. And we fell for it completely. Dad turned to me. Lana, what we did to you. Later, I said firmly. Right now, we need to focus on damage control. Duncan nodded. I've contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Given the interstate nature of the fraud and the offshore accounts, they're taking over the investigation. What about Bailey's college fund? Mom asked suddenly. Bailey laughed bitterly. Gone. Mom emptied it last week. Said she was diversifying my investments. We'll figure something out, I promised him. First things first, Duncan interrupted, pulling out more papers. We need to file these reports, revoke all powers of attorney, and set up new accounts with proper security measures. As we worked through the paperwork, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. S. I showed it to Duncan, who immediately began typing on his phone, adding it to the evidence file. Keep any messages she sends. What happens now? Bailey asked, his voice small. Now, I said, we rebuild. Together. Dad looked up from the papers he was signing. As a family. The real one. Not the illusion your mother created. Outside Duncan's office windows, the city continued its normal rhythm, unaware of the drama unfolding inside. But in that conference room, surrounded by the wreckage of Sawyer's deception, we were taking the first steps toward healing. The truth had come out, as I'd promised it would. The cost was higher than any of us had imagined, but at least now we could face it honestly, together. 2 weeks after the confrontation in Duncan's office, I sat with Bailey in a small cafe, watching him push his untouched sandwich around his plate. The FBI investigation was in full swing, and Sawyer had disappeared after making bail. She called again last night, Bailey said, not looking up. Kept saying she could explain everything if I'd just meet her. You know you can't, I reminded him gently. The restraining order, I know. He finally met my eyes. But she's still my mum, even after everything. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Corey rushed in, laptop under his arm. Sorry I'm late, but you need to see this. He opened his computer, pulling up an email. Sawyer's been busy. Look at these ticket confirmations. She's trying to leave the country, I realized, scanning the documents. Brazil? No extradition treaty, Corey explained. Duncan's already forwarding this to the FBI. Bailey's phone buzzed. His face went pale as he read the message. She wants me to bring her passport, says it's in her bedroom safe. Let me see. I read the text. Baby, please help Mommy. Just this one thing. I'll make everything right. We should tell the FBI, Corey said. Wait. I looked at Bailey. This might be our chance to recover more of the stolen money. She must have documents in that safe. You want to use my son as bait? Mum's voice made us all jump. She stood by our table looking worried. I followed Bailey when I saw him leave the house. Not as bait, I assured her, but if we coordinate with the FBI. My phone rang. Duncan. I put it on speaker. Sawyer's passport has already been flagged, he said without preamble, but there might be something else in that safe worth retrieving. The FBI wants to set up a controlled meeting. Mum sat down heavily. It's not worth the risk to Bailey. I want to do it, Bailey said firmly. Maybe she'll surrender if she sees me. 2 hours later, we sat in an FBI surveillance van, watching Bailey approach his old house through multiple camera feeds. He wore a wire, and agents were positioned around the property. Remember, Agent Sarah warned through the radio. If she shows up, don't confront her. Just get the safe contents and get out. Bailey used his key to enter. The house was dark, exactly as Sawyer had left it 2 weeks ago. We watched him climb the stairs to the master bedroom. The safe's behind her favourite painting, his voice came through clearly. She always thought that was clever. He moved the artwork, revealing a wall safe, using my birthday as the code. Classic Mom. The safe clicked open. Inside, we could see stacks of papers, USB drives, and what looked like passports. Multiple passports, Agent Sarah muttered. This just got bigger. Suddenly, a car's headlights swept across the house's front windows. Bailey, get out now, I said into the radio. Someone's here. Wait, he whispered. There's something else. Bank statements from the Cayman Islands. The sound of a door opening downstairs made us all freeze. Bailey, Sawyer's voice called out. Baby, are you here? Move in, Agent Sarah ordered her team. Now! We watched as Bailey grabbed everything from the safe, shoving it into his backpack. Footsteps on the stairs. I'm in my old room, Mom, he called out, his voice steady despite his shaking hands. Just getting some clothes. He slipped out onto the bedroom balcony just as Sawyer reached the top of the stairs. FBI agents converged from all directions. FBI, don't move! Sawyer's scream of rage echoed through our headsets. Bailey, you helped them trap me? No, Mom. His voice was thick with tears as he climbed down to waiting agents. You trapped yourself. Back at the FBI office, Bailey sat with his head in his hands while agents went through the safe's contents. 6 fake passports, Agent Sarah reported. Offshore account details, evidence of at least 3 other fraud schemes. Your sister's been busy for years. Mom hugged Bailey close. You were so brave. But she'll go to prison now, he said quietly. Because of me. No, I corrected him. Because of her choices. You just helped expose the truth. Corey, who'd been examining the USB drives, called us over. Look at this. She kept records of everything. It's like she was proud of her schemes. Pride comes before the fall, Mom said softly. My phone buzzed with a text from Duncan. Sawyer's asking to make a deal. Says she'll return what's left of the money for a lighter sentence. Too late for deals, Agent Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. We've got her dead to rights on multiple federal charges. Bailey stood up suddenly. I need some air. I followed him outside. We stood in the cool night air, watching police cars come and go. You know what's weird? He said finally. I feel relieved, like I can finally stop pretending everything's okay. I put my arm around him. That's because the truth, even when it hurts, is better than living a lie. He nodded, leaning into me. What happens now? Now, I said. We heal, and we do it together. Bailey's graduation was 3 days away, and the tension in our family was reaching a breaking point. We sat in the living room of my parents' house, surrounded by college acceptance letters and legal documents. She's requesting to attend the graduation, Dad said, holding up a letter from Sawyer's lawyer. Says it's her right as a mother. Absolutely not, Mom snapped. The restraining order can be temporarily lifted for special events, Duncan interjected, adjusting his reading glasses. It's up to Bailey. All eyes turned to Bailey, who sat cross-legged on the floor, fiddling with his graduation cap tassel. I want her there. Honey, after everything she's done, Mom started. She's still my mum, Bailey interrupted, and I want to show her exactly what she's losing. The doorbell rang. Corey entered with his laptop, looking excited. The forensic accountants found something, more accounts hidden deeper than the others. Duncan leaned forward. How much? Another 150,000. They're working on recovery now. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tell Bailey I'm coming to his graduation. Nothing can stop me from seeing my son. I showed it to Duncan, who immediately started typing on his phone. Forwarding to the FBI. They'll want to monitor the ceremony. We can't let her ruin this, I said, watching Bailey's face fall. This is his day. She won't, Dad said firmly. We'll have security, the FBI, everything we need. Actually, Bailey stood up, his voice stronger than I'd heard in weeks. I have an idea. Let her come. Bailey, Mum protested. No, listen, she wants to see me graduate, fine. But I'm giving the student's speech, remember, and I know exactly what I want to say. The room fell silent. Bailey had been chosen as class speaker months ago before everything fell apart. Are you sure? I asked quietly. He nodded. I'm done hiding her secrets, done pretending everything's okay. It could get messy, Duncan warned. My whole life has been messy, Bailey replied. At least this time it's on my terms. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Security plans were made, the FBI coordinated with local police, and Bailey spent hours in his room working on his speech. The morning of graduation, we gathered at the high school auditorium. I helped Bailey straighten his honor cords while scanning the growing crowd. She's here, Corey murmured, nodding toward the back. Third row from the right. Sawyer sat alone, wearing oversized sunglasses and a designer dress that couldn't hide how thin she'd become. FBI agents positioned themselves strategically around her. You ready? I asked Bailey. He squared his shoulders. More than ready. The ceremony began. We watched as Bailey's classmates received their diplomas, the normal excitement of graduation tempered by the underlying tension. Then it was time for Bailey's speech. He approached the podium, adjusting the microphone. The audience fell silent. Today marks not just our graduation, he began, but our first step into truth. For years, I watched my family live a lie. I watched my mother steal from her own parents, frame her sister, and destroy the trust that families are built on. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sawyer half rose from her seat, but an FBI agent's hand on her shoulder kept her down. But here's what I learned, Bailey continued, his voice growing stronger. The truth always comes out, and when it does, you have a choice. You can hide from it, like my mother did, or you can face it, learn from it, and grow stronger. I saw tears streaming down Mum's face. Dad held her hand tightly. To my classmates, I say this: your integrity is everything. Once lost, it's almost impossible to regain. To my family, the ones who stood by me, who fought for truth, thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. Sawyer stood up fully now, her sunglasses off, mascara running down her face. Bailey, please. And to my mother, he said, looking directly at her, I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine, because holding on to anger only hurts ourselves. The auditorium erupted in applause. Sawyer fled down the aisle, FBI agents following discreetly. Bailey returned to his seat, shoulders straight, head high. After the ceremony, we gathered in the parking lot. Bailey clutched his diploma, surrounded by family and friends. That was incredibly brave, I told him. It felt right, he said. Like I could finally breathe. Duncan approached, phone in hand. Sawyer's been taken into custody. She violated the restraining order by approaching the stage. Good, Dad said firmly. Maybe now we can all move forward. Bailey looked at his diploma, then at all of us. You know what? For the first time, I actually believe we can. We headed to our cars, ready to celebrate properly. The truth had been spoken, not in whispers or legal documents, but out loud, in front of everyone. And somehow, that made all the difference. The courthouse hallway felt impossibly long as we waited for Sawyer's sentencing hearing to begin. 3 months had passed since Bailey's graduation, and the full scope of her crimes had finally come to light. You don't have to do this, I told Bailey, watching him adjust his tie for the 10th time. No one would blame you for staying home. I need to see it through, he replied, his voice steady. Besides, I'm not the only one making a victim impact statement. Mum and Dad sat nearby, reviewing their prepared statements. Corey worked on his laptop, organizing the final financial records that had sealed Sawyer's fate. The courtroom doors opened. Duncan emerged, his expression grim. They're ready for us. Inside, Sawyer sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from her designer outfits. She turned as we entered, her eyes locking onto Bailey. Baby, please, she started. No contact with the victims, the bailiff warned. We took our seats. The judge entered and the proceedings began. The prosecutor laid out the final tally. Over $500,000 stolen, multiple instances of fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. The defendant has agreed to plead guilty to all charges, the prosecutor announced. Before sentencing, we'll hear victim impact statements. Dad went first, his voice shaking with emotion. You didn't just steal our money, Sawyer. You stole our trust, our family's peace. You tried to destroy your sister's reputation for your own gain. Mom could barely get through her statement. I keep asking myself what I did wrong as a mother. How did I raise someone capable of such calculated cruelty? Then it was my turn. I stood, facing my sister directly. I spent weeks trying to write this statement, I began, trying to find the right words to describe what you did to us. But there aren't any. You didn't just commit fraud, Sawyer. You weaponized love. You turned our parents against me because you were jealous. You used your own son as a pawn in your schemes. Sawyer's face crumpled, but I continued. The worst part isn't the money. It's knowing that every childhood memory, every family moment is now tainted by the question, were you planning this even then? Finally, Bailey approached the podium. The room fell silent. Mom, he said simply, and Sawyer's head snapped up. I used to think you were the strongest person I knew. Now I realize that real strength isn't about maintaining appearances or manipulating others. It's about facing consequences, something you never taught me. But thankfully, Aunt Lana did. Sawyer tried to stand, but her lawyer pulled her back down. I'm going to college in the fall, Bailey continued. The money you stole from my college fund? Aunt Lana and my grandparents are helping me replace it. Because that's what real family does. They build each other up instead of tearing each other down. The judge cleared his throat. Would the defendant like to make a statement before sentencing? Sawyer stood shakily. I never meant for it to go this far. The gambling debts just kept growing, and I couldn't stop. Lana always had everything so together, and I wanted that. I wanted to be the successful one for once. By destroying her? Dad interrupted. Order, the judge warned. I'm sorry, Sawyer whispered. Bailey, baby, I'm so sorry. The judge adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Taylor, you've pled guilty to multiple federal charges. You systematically defrauded your own parents, attempted to frame your sister, and involved your minor son in your criminal activities. The court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. You will also be required to make full restitution to your victims. The gavel struck. Sawyer collapsed into her chair as bailiffs approached to lead her away. Wait, she called out desperately. Bailey, please, will you visit me? Bailey stood, shoulders straight like at graduation. Maybe someday, Mom, when you're ready to tell the whole truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras. Duncan helped us navigate through them to our cars. It's really over, Mom said, sounding dazed. The criminal part is, Duncan corrected. We still have work to do recovering the remaining funds. Bailey checked his phone. My dorm assignment came through. I start moving in next week. We'll help you, I promised. All of us. Dad put his arm around Bailey's shoulders. Your mom made her choices. Now you get to make yours. Speaking of choices, Corey called from his car, who's up for lunch? I think we all need something normal right now. As we headed to our favourite restaurant, I watched Bailey in the rearview mirror. He was smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. The truth had finally been spoken, justice had been served, and while our family would never be the same, maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. Sometimes it takes breaking apart to rebuild something stronger. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Bailey's dorm parking lot as we unloaded the last of his belongings. Mom fussed with his bedding while Dad arranged his desk, trying to keep busy rather than face the moment we'd have to leave. Got the final restitution report from Duncan, Corey said, showing me his phone as we carried in boxes. They recovered almost everything. Your parents' retirement is secure. Good timing, I replied. One less worry for today. Bailey emerged from his dorm room looking both excited and terrified. I think that's everything. Almost everything. Dad said, pulling out an envelope. "This came for you this morning, from the prison." The room went quiet. Bailey took the letter, his hands steady. "She's been writing every week. I haven't opened any of them." "You don't have to open this one either," Mum said softly. "No, I think it's time." He broke the seal and unfolded the paper. As he read, his expression shifted from guarded to surprised. "She's signed up for therapy," he said, "and gambling addiction counseling. Says she's finally ready to tell the whole truth, not just about the money, but about everything." "Do you believe her?" I asked. "I don't know, but..." He handed me the letter. "She included this for you, Aunt Lana." I opened the folded note. "Lana, I've spent every day here thinking about what I did to you. The truth is, I was never jealous of your money or success. I was jealous of your integrity, your strength, the way our parents looked at you with pride instead of worry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have right now. Sawyer." "Well," Bailey watched my face. "It's a start," I said, folding the note. "A small one." Dad cleared his throat. "Speaking of starts, we should probably..." "Yeah," Mum's voice cracked. "We should go." Bailey hugged them both, then turned to me. "Thank you. For everything. For fighting for the truth when everyone else believed the lies." "That's what family does," I said, pulling him close. "The real kind, anyway." "Oh," Corey called from the doorway. "Almost forgot. Housewarming gift." He handed Bailey a small package. Inside was a framed photo from his graduation day, not the ceremony, but after. Bailey stood surrounded by all of us laughing at something off camera. His first moment of real freedom from Sawyer's web of lies. "Put it somewhere you can see it," Corey said. "Remember, you've got people in your corner." As we walked back to our cars, Bailey's roommate arrived with his family. The two boys immediately started talking about video games and class schedules, the normal excitement of college life taking over. "He's going to be okay," Mum said, watching them. "Better than okay." "Because he chose to be," I replied. "Just like we all did." Dad pulled out his phone. "Duncan says the last offshore account has been frozen. Everything's accounted for now." "Not everything," Mum said quietly. "We can never get back the time we lost, the trust we broke when we believed Sawyer over you, Lana." "No," I agreed, "but we can build something new, something stronger." "Speaking of building," Corey interrupted, "we're going to be late for the house inspection." "House inspection?" Dad asked. "I'm buying a place," I explained. "Just a small house, but it has a guest room. For when Bailey needs a break from dorm life." Mom smiled, really smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. "You're still taking care of everyone, aren't you?" "I learned from the best," I said, hugging her, "even if we forgot it for a while." We said our final goodbyes to Bailey, watching him walk back toward his dorm with his new roommate. He turned once, waving, then disappeared inside to start his new chapter. In the parking lot, Dad pulled me aside. "I know we've said it before, but I'm sorry. For doubting you. For letting Sawyer manipulate us." "I know, Dad. But look what came from it." I gestured around us. "Bailey's stronger. Mom's stronger. We all are. Sometimes the truth has to break things apart before they can be rebuilt right." My phone buzzed. A text from Duncan. "Final paperwork ready. Your parents' accounts are secure, new protections in place, ready to close this chapter." I looked at my family, Mom and Dad holding hands, Corey waiting by his car, Bailey's dorm rising behind us, and even thought about Sawyer, working on her own redemption in prison. The truth had cost us all something, but it had given us back ourselves. "Yeah," I texted back. "We're ready." Because sometimes endings aren't really endings at all. They're just the truth making space for new beginnings.